and the agricultural sector opportunities. I take this very early opportunity on behalf of Mashariki, even though our CEO will make some opening remarks, to register our appreciation for honoring our invitation to this timely and relevant conversation. As was provided for in the concept note, this roundtable, which is convened under the Trade and Development Program as part of the work that the Center does, has several outcomes. I'll just highlight a few. One is to, have a series of policy interventions and proposals that can enhance farmers' access and investors' access to the EU market. We also hope at the end of this roundtable to have some recommendations around immediate and midterm capacity development interventions for farmers across the country so that they can find opportunities to access the EU market. We also hope to hear a few proposals, especially from the private sector, on some of the incentives that they can tap into. More importantly, but not the least, as a think tank in this region, I would be very happy also to hear some thoughts from the different speakers about some of the research agendas we could look at in the policy space. So we're inspired, of course, to shape research and policy agendas around this EPA. And therefore, as we do this, we'll be, clearly in the pursuit of our objectives as a center. We are very keen, as part of our objectives, to develop, policy advisories, but also within the confines of knowledge production, we are very keen to steer conversations in that regard. In this room today, we have diplomats, we have people from the private sector, we have civil society and members of the academia. So because of that, we look forward to enhancing, collaborations and partnerships in pursuit of our research and policy agendas. I would like to quickly introduce the Mashariki research team. They've been, besides the scenes, planning for this event. Of course, our CEO is seated to my far left. He'll be making his remarks today. To the far end, Mr. Sami Kwinga, if you just raise your hand so that the participants can see you. Other colleagues in the room include Grace Musolo, who's been handling our communications and logistics very well. We have Research Fellow for Trade and Development, under which this program is convened, Felista Scandie. And we have two other staff that are helping us with the management of this event, Ms. Nancy Okoth and Mr. James Maranga. It's now my pleasure to invite the CEO of Mashariki Research and Policy Center, his remarks, and thereafter hand the program to the moderator, Professor Iraki. Thank you.
Excellencies present, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yeah, it's a warm afternoon. It's also bright, so we need to be bright also. Allow me to make a few remarks. It gives me great pleasure this bright afternoon to welcome you all to this important round table discussion on the Kenya-European Union Economic Partnership Agreement and the vast opportunities it portends for Kenya's agricultural sector. This event brings together a diverse group of policymakers, stakeholders in the agricultural sector and the private sector to engage in a meaningful dialogue on this critical topic. At the onset, allow me to recognize our esteemed speakers today, to start with His Excellency Ambassador Professor Dr. Bitange Demu. He is our Kenya's ambassador to Belgium and the European Union, who will join us virtually later at about 4 p.m. We also have Mr. Michael Mandu, representing Mr. Alfred Kobudo, the PS, State Department for Trade, Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry in Kenya. Mr. Filippo Amato, the head of Trade Section, delegation of the European Union to Kenya. Professor Dr. Hamad Boga is not arrived. We are still expecting him. He's the Vice President, Program Delivery, Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, AGLA. We are also expecting Dr. Engineer Hannah Gugi. She is the Country Program Director Trademark Africa. Ms. Faith Dunge is with us. She is the Deputy Director Standards, International Obligations and Trade at Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, KEFIS. Mr. Paul Kiudu is with us. He's the Head of Partnerships, Food and Agriculture Department, Equity Bank of Kenya. We also have, we expect Mr. Joseph Wagula, who is the CEO, Avocado Exporters Association of Kenya. Mrs. Agatha Thuo, she is the Chief Executive Officer, Agriculture Sector Network and Agriculture Sector Board, Kenya Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA. Mr. Abel Kamau is with us, Trade Policy Manager, Kenya Association of Manufacturers. Mr. Patrick Musioki is also with us, representing the Fresh Produce Exporters Association of Kenya, FPIC. Ms. Chalon Wajiku, I don't know whether she's with us. Great. She's the Secretary of Avocado Aggregators Association, and she'll also be talking on behalf of the youth. And then finally, we will have Ambassador David Gacheru. He is our former Kenya Deputy Ambassador to the US, who is also one of our board members, and he will deliver his closing remarks virtually from Washington, D.C. at about 5 p.m. I also wish to extend a warm welcome to the youth groups, scholars, policy practitioners, and other stakeholders in attendance. Your presence today reflects the collaborative spirit needed to unlock the potential of Kenya's agricultural sector under the EPA framework. Karibuni sana. Allow me to start by introducing Mashariki Research and Policy Center, the convener of this roundtable. MRPC is a non-profit, interdisciplinary and independent think tank based here in Nairobi at the moment, with a focus on strategic and security studies in the Eastern Africa region. Our work is centered on conducting evidence-based research and analysis to inform policy and decision-making processes for governments, non-state actors, intergovernmental organizations, and the private sector. Our work is structured around the research programs, 5 of them. The first one is peace and security. Second one is geopolitics and world order. The third one is technology and governance. Fourth is trade and development. And finally, climate change and environment. Today's event falls under our trade and development program. This roundtable, as Dr. Mwangi has already alluded, comes at a critical moment. The Kenya EU EPA, which came into effect on 1st of July this year, marks a significant milestone in our journey towards economic resilience and sustainable growth. It represents more than just a trade pact. It reflects shared values, mutual respect, and a vision for inclusive development. By providing duty-free and quota-free access to the EU market for the Kenyan agricultural exports, the agreement unlocks immense growth potential for this country. Conversely, Kenya will also gradually open its market to the EU imports. As Kenya's second largest trading partner, The EU accounted for over 3.3 billion euros in bilateral trade in 2023, a 27% increase since 2018. Therefore, this agreement offers a crucial platform for expanding market access, fostering economic growth, and driving transformation in the agricultural sector. Today's discussions will explore strategies for Kenya to harness the full potential of the EPA, with a particular emphasis on the agricultural sector. Key areas of focus include identifying ways the government can incentivize farmers, investors, and exporters to optimize EU market access, as well as analyzing how technology and policy framework can support these opportunities. Equally important are capacity building initiatives, which are crucial to equipping farmers, particularly in rural areas, with the skills and resources needed to meet EU market standards, which I'm sure our representative from KEFIS will elaborate. These efforts will also strengthen value chains, enabling farmers to compete effectively in global trade. The private sector plays a significant role in this transformation. And that explains the importance of having them in this room today. Its contributions in driving innovation, creating market linkages, and providing financial and technical support to small-scale farmers are indispensable. These efforts will help expand Kenya's agricultural export footprint while fostering sustainable growth. Additionally, engaging the youth in agriculture is key to Kenya's agricultural transformation. Programs focused on entrepreneurship, access to modern farming technologies, and skills training can attract younger generations to the sector, fostering innovation and ensuring the industry's long-term sustainability. The EPA presents a valuable opportunity to integrate the youth into the value chain, transforming agriculture into a dynamic and inclusive industry. The contribution of think tanks like ourselves, Machariki Research and Policy Center, and the academia plays a significant role in shaping policy discourses allowed the EPA. Evidence-based research is crucial in driving informed discussions and offering insights into best practices, regulatory reforms, and innovative solutions that will enhance the agreement's effectiveness. Today's roundtable, convened by a think tank, is therefore a significant step in this journey, and I look forward to the insightful discussions ahead. We will appreciate your recommendations, as also said by Dr. Mwangi, on possible collaborative efforts between MRPC and your organizations on steps that we can take moving forward to support Kenya's agricultural stakeholders to fully optimize this opportunity. I hope this will be among the key recommendations in the communique that we shall release after these deliberations today. While thanking you all for honoring our invitation, please join me in welcoming our moderator, Professor Exen Ilaki, a household name from the University of Nairobi, Faculty of Business and Management Sciences, who will ably guide today's discussions. Karibu, Professor.
Good afternoon. My name is Iraki, as the director has introduced me. All protocols observed. I welcome all of you, whether you are ambassadors, researchers, entrepreneurs, you are welcome. Before we start, I want to make one comment or two. One of them is the choice of the topic: European Union Economic Partnership Agreement and opportunities thereof. And throughout this presentation, I want you all to focus more on the word opportunity, because I think that is what matters. If you look at the popular media, we focus on China, we focus on the US. Those are the two areas where most media focus on. But today, we want to be a bit political, tunataka kupitia katikati yao. So we go and focus on European Union. The team presented today is diverse in terms of topics, gender, professions, and regions. You hear somebody is from the US, somebody is from Europe, somebody is from this part of the world, so we were represented. Director, the choice of the venue was good. I like this venue, but I have discovered most of you are too comfortable. So to make you a bit uncomfortable and attentive, I want all of you to stand up before we get the first speaker. You all stand up. I don't know how many of you in this group has ever participated in speed dating. And I want to give you a primer in speed dating. In exactly 1 minute, I want you to know as many people as possible. You can walk around, know their names, and what they do. At the end of the 3 hours presentation, there will be a prize or whoever knows the greatest number of people in the shortest time possible. Please go. I'm timing you. My 1 minute is over. My 1 minute is over. Have a seat. Time is over. Please have a seat. There's no bonus. Have a seat. Have a seat, please. Now you are rigging. I'll accuse you of rigging now. Have a seat. The minute is over. Get seated, please. The minute is over. Please get seated. Some of you are overworking to get the prize. I only made one observation. If a gentleman was meeting another gentleman, he took as little time as possible to go and meet the lady. And the ladies took more time. That is why you are not going to get as many friends as possible. For the afternoon session, let's start with the first speaker, Mr. Michael Mandu, the Acting Secretary, Trade, State Department of Trade, and the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. Mr. Michael Mandu, are you here? Yes, welcome aboard. We chose you because of a very simple reason. We are all under the government of Kenya. So set the pace. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much. You know, I need to be challenging to set the pace by running. The only thing I know to do very well, being a lawyer, is to eat as much ugali as possible, and I don't see any ugali here. As indicated in the program, I'm here representing PS Mr. Alfred Kombudo. So that means I'm putting on very big shoes. They may be ill-fitting. But if you find them ill-fitting, blame it on who sent me. But permit me to recognize a few people here, if not all of you. Brigadier Retired Dr. Robert Kabage, thank you very much. Professor Bitange in absentia, he'll be joining later on. Professor Edie Boga will be joining later on. And I've met someone that I've only seen in newspapers and TV, Professor Iraki. Now I can see him in person, in flesh and blood. My neighbor there, Dr. Engineer Hannah Ngugi from Trademark Africa. We have interacted before elsewhere. Ms. Agatha Thuo, Joseph Wagura, Filippo Amato. When we were doing a lot of work, we call him Philip. We didn't want to do a lot of Filippo and what have you. Paul Ngugi, Abel Kamau. I've also seen a very old diplomat, Ambassador James Maina. I met him when he used to be chief of protocol, those days of the late Mwai Kibaki. And then I've also met another one called Brigadier Retired Abraham Wambugo. And the rest of you, thank you very much. I stand before you to make a few remarks. We also have members of the business associations and what have you. But let me say it is a great honor for me to represent the PS in this very important conversation. Like Professor Raki has said, we are looking at the opportunities, areas of focus, particularly for the agricultural sector, which is actually one of our biggest components of exports to the EU and indeed other parts of the world. And let me also thank Mashariki Research and Policy Center for the invitation. Obviously, I need to convey the apologies of the PS. He could not make it because something else cropped up which required him. It doesn't mean that this meeting is so small, but that will require his personal attention, and sometimes personal attention you don't delegate in government. You have to be there yourself. And therefore, he sent me to come and say that. But also to look at that this conversation today is timely because it contributes to our ongoing efforts to raise awareness about trade opportunities presented by the Kenya-EU Economic Partnership Agreement, not just to the business community, but also to the producers, to the farmers, to the aggregators. Just to let you know that we have held a number or a series of workshops across the country with the aim of sensitizing the users of the opportunities in this agreement. We have been to Nakuru, we went to Kirinyaga, we have been to Machakos, we have gone to Eldoret, we have been to Isholo, we have also been down to Mombasa, and I think now we are preparing to look at Kisumu, then Nairobi in the first month of the coming year. You're already aware that the agreement was signed on the 18th of December 2023, and it came into effect on July 1st, 2024. Particularly, this is not a new agreement. We'll call it a continuity agreement because it continues or makes possible for the trading arrangements we have had with the EU dating back to what we call the Lome Conventions, Lome 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we came to the Cotonou Agreement. All those were frameworks within which Kenya traded with the EU until 1995, when WTO and the US accused the EU that the agreement that we were trading under was not compliant to WTO agreement Article 24. And therefore, we were conditioned to begin work on a partnership agreement, which we did. Concluded in 2014, initiated by EAC partner states, but the other partner states developed cold feet, and therefore only Kenya and Rwanda went ahead to sign, but only Kenya ratified in 2016, just to make sure that we don't lose our market access to the EU. And because it's non-implementation, Kenya appealed the EAC Summit of Heads of State in 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2021 to apply what we call the principal variable geometry in implementing that agreement. So the EPA we're talking about is a result of all those efforts to make sure that we continue our trading with the EU. Professor Iraq has already indicated that the EU is a huge market. 16 trillion USD as a GDP. It takes 21% of our exports. It may not be as big as China. By the way, Professor, for me, I've never been a keen supporter of China. I think that our trade relations are a little bit better looking northwards than east, but that's a story for another day. For now, we look at the European Union as a huge market for us. And when you look at trade that the CEO has indicated, it's about two ways, about 3.3 billion US dollars, almost balanced. Unlike what we have in other parts of the world, like the East, where 30 million against 1 billion USD is a very big, big difference. Now, Kenya's exports to these countries are mainly to Europe is live plants and cut flowers, coffee, tea, and spices, edible fruits, nuts, edible vegetables, and as you can hear and indicate, lesser gentlemen, fish and crustacea, oil seeds, animal and vegetable fats, most of these are products of the agricultural sector. We then is the reason why we are here. But we know that the agreement now, because it's duty-free, quota-free, it also allows us to begin exporting products of the manufacturing sector. Because the agreement removes something called tariff escalation, which meant that every volume or value of ad you put on a product, it would attract more customers from the EU. That has been removed, but majorly, we look at agriculture as the biggest beneficiary in this agreement. Therefore, the EU offers a huge potential market for agricultural commodities from Kenya. However, to fully benefit from this, Kenya intends to build a strong agricultural value chain that would enable exports of high-value manufactured products that fetch better prices rather than just exporting agricultural commodities in raw form. The EPA provides Kenya producers opportunity to export manufactured value-added products to the EU, and under the framework, such products are no longer subject to tariff escalation, which I've already indicated. What we import from the EU is mainly machinery, pharmaceuticals, electrical machinery, motor vehicles, miscellaneous chemical products, paper and paper products, mainly for the packaging industry and water. And when you look at most of these products, they are intended for supporting our manufacturing sector, our agricultural sector, our livestock sector. They are not for end user consumption. They are for further inputs into further production. So there are many positives from implementing the EPA in Kenya's economic development agenda. For instance, the agreement provides enhanced development cooperation to support Kenya's transition to the green economy. We think it will be important for us, driving investments into Kenya. On this point, we have seen a lot of interest from some countries that feel that if they position themselves in Kenya, they are able to export to the EU using this agreement. So we have seen many, many parties in parts of Africa and parts of East Asia looking to come and set up because they want to enjoy this opportunity that the agreement has offered them. The agreement fosters productivity, stability, and certainty to support long-term planning for businesses aiming to expand their exports to the EU, therefore enabling growth and the creation of more and border jobs. Safeguard local producers, we have that in the agreement. We have a particular arrangement on what we call safeguard, so that if we see that there will be an avalanche of goods from the EU that would harm our economy, then the trade remedies can kick in to support us. The agreement establishes regulatory framework that governs the following areas. And here we talk about regulatory cooperation, not just one-sided. We talk about trading goods. In here, while Kenya is already benefiting from duty-free, quota-free market access to the EU for all exports except arms, the EU's entry into the Kenyan market will be subject to what we call gradual liberalization, beginning from year 7. So for us, beginning from year 0, The EU begins from year 7. And when the agreement will be fully enforced after 25 years, there will be almost 1 to 2.6% of the tariff line that will never, ever be liberalized. So most of the agricultural commodities talk about chicken meat, talk about eggs, talk about whatever they think that we produce here. This will never, ever be liberalized for EU products to come in this market. So it offers an opportunity for us to grow our economy. It also offers fisheries. There's cooperation in this particular area. We know that our marine fisheries have remained dormant for a long time. And we believe that as we cooperate with the EU in this particular area, we're able to harness our marine fisheries and the blue economy. Agriculture is huge, and I think if you permitted me to diverge a little bit, when you look at the data at the International Trade Center, ladies and gentlemen, and we see what the EU imports from the rest of the world vis-a-vis what Kenya exports, you are left wondering. For example, coffee, one of our key exports, we only export 0.68% to the EU. That's the market that we have hold of, 0.68%. Put in figure terms, the EU imported coffee valued at 12.9 billion in 2022, and our exports were just 151.7 million. Imagine that. Tea, one of our biggest exports globally, the EU imported 1.13 billion in 2022 from the rest of the world. How much do we export to them? 51.5 million, which is 4.5% of the market. We look at flowers. The thing that we pride ourselves so much in, the EU imported flowers valued at 12.98 billion in 2022. How much do we export it to? 484.7 million, which was about 3.79%. We could look at a few other products. If you look at fruits and vegetables, EU imports 26.7 billion, our exports are 190.6 billion, 0.7% of the market. Vegetables, 29.9 billion. How much do we export to them? 104.1 million, which is 0.34% of the market. So when you look at all this then, you can begin imagining how much we can do if we can invest more and produce more to maybe just take our take on the market to maybe about 5%. You could see how much could have here. I know you have talked about the youth. Let's look at something that we call edible herbs. These are things like ginger, like peppers, like turmeric, thyme, bay leaves, curry. These are things that require only maybe a quarter an acre of land. You don't need a lot of it. The EU imports are valued at 1.75 billion. Kenya exported only 1.75 million in 2022, or 0.1% of that. So the potential, in my view, and our view, it is massive for agriculture. And therefore, we need to do a lot to get hold of this fantastic market. Also, the agreement talks about economic development cooperation, a very important area for us. I don't want to delve into a lot of things, but we think that with EU support, we're able to do a lot of things in expanding our production space, in increasing our productivity. It could be matters of irrigation, it could be matters of infrastructure, and what have you. And we hope that's important. Something that we did, ladies and gentlemen, we bit the bullet and agreed to do something called Trade and Sustainable Development, a chapter, the first one ever by an African country with the EU. Now, we haggled over this for a very long time, but later on we thought because of the climate change, because of matters of environment, we thought it was important for us to accept this. And what does this agreement talk about? We talk about labor rights. We talk about climate and environmental protection. We talk about gender equality in trade. We talk about biodiversity. We talk about forestry for trade. And for the private sector, we talk about responsible supply chain management. And in addition to this, you may think maybe we goofed, but we have a very elaborate system of of commitments and a convention for both parties already signed to, but also have a mechanism for addressing any dispute that may arise in the course of implementing this. And to do this, we have started working on an implementation strategy for the agreement. And I think we have a consultant who is working on this. And we hope that with the right strategy then, we are well able to see where we are coming from and where we are going. Remember, this is more or less a permanent agreement. The parties can keep it for as long as they so wish. So after 25 years, we can keep it for 50, we can keep it for 100. It also gives opportunity for the parties to come together and review areas where they feel need to be fixed to make it better, to make it more friendly, and what have you. So this is all about this very important agreement, and we are happy that as a ministry, we are collaborating with the private sector, with the EU and other actors to get this information out to the users that, look, there is a gold mine here. We need to take advantage of, we need to harness it, we need to take advantage of these opportunities. And as I conclude, I would like to urge all the stakeholders present, particularly the private sector in the agriculture sector, to take advantage of the opportunities presented by this agreement and do great things. As a ministry, we are looking for support from development partners, from friends, from other partners who can help us to take this information as much as to every part of this country. I know we talked about 8 areas, but we have also received a lot of interest from the Council of Governors that we need to gather, train their officers to understand what this agreement is all about so that they can also inform the actors in their counties. So I would like to welcome you, the think tank, Mashariki, to be part of this arrangement, and where possible, if you can organize a forum, I think we have the mouth and the voices to talk. You can call on us. So as I conclude, I thank you very much for your audience, and God bless you even as we begin celebrating our Christmas. Thank you, my professor. I hope I've not overshot my time. And I don't know whether I've set the pace because I'm not a runner, but thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you very much. When we teach research in the university, we always say that the government is a source of information. And Mr. Michael Madu has demonstrated that. And I think we could not have got a better curtain raiser. He gave us the background to European Union, partnership agreements from Lome Convention to Cotonou and so on. Thank you very much, Mr. Madu. Number 2 is when you started talking, I was watching you. By the time we finished, I was very sad because of the statistics you gave about the potential of agriculture. But I see it positively because you have demonstrated to us the potential is so huge in agriculture. My small plot somewhere, I'm going to plot to grow some basil and other herbs and export to the European Union. Now, to conclude, Mr. Mandu, you said there was no ugali here. And if I knew you were coming, I would have taken care of the interests because I've been to your place. I've been to Shamahoho, I've been to Navahoro. And I discovered in Western Kenya, the towns have very long names, but they are very small. I don't understand why that happens. So, thank you very much. We want to get the next guest, and appropriately, somebody who is very right into the European Union. So he's going to give us his remarks. And our next guest is Mr. Filippo Amato. He works for the Directorate General for the Trade of the European Commission, and is currently posted to the European delegation to Kenya as first Chancellor. Mr. Madu, I could have introduced you, but I did not have your bio, but I'll look for it. Mr. Mato has extensive experience in international and European Union trade law, antitrust law, public enforcement, and litigation. So the issues you have raised about regulation, he will address them. I also notice with a keen interest that Mr. Amato has also been involved in more than 40 court proceedings before the General Court and the Court of Justice of the European Union. And you can read his other credentials, but he also worked for 2 American firms. But most important, from my point of view as a professor, he's a graduate of Columbia University, which is an Ivy League university. So we can't have a better person for this particular session than Mr. Filippo Amato. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Professor, for this nice presentation. I shouldn't have sent it. Actually, it was a bit embarrassing. It's my past. Indeed, I was into law practice for many years. But now I switched to trade. And ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Let me stand on existing protocol. I would like to really thank a lot the Mashariki Research and Policy Center for organizing this event and for inviting us. As Michael Mandu has said, we have started a round of EPA sensitization workshops around the country, and it's always a pleasure to see other organizations that are interested into discussing about the opportunities of this agreement, because the more we do, the more we sensitize, the more you're going to benefit from the opportunities offered by the EPA. Well, it was difficult for me to prepare a speech because I didn't know what my friend Michael would have said, and he said it all, unfortunately, in 10 minutes. And he said it very well, much better, I would say, than in our workshop, where he is given more time and he says the same thing, but he says it in 40 minutes. So, well done. If we can keep the same timing for our next workshop, it would be great. So what remains to me to say is not much, besides just perhaps underlining some of the topics Michael has discussed. Indeed, the volume of trade between the EU, the trade relation, is very balanced. To give figures from 2023, exports from Kenya to the European Union were of 1.3 billion euro, whilst imports from the European Union 1.7. So there was about 400 million euro difference, which, I mean, compared with the balance of trade with other countries, like China, just to take an example, of course, it is still a negative balance or a positive balance in favor of the EU, but it's not such a big difference. Not such a big difference as the one as President Trump sees as a big issue, and they would like to punish with in new tariffs. So we have a good trade relationship, and with this partnership agreement, we hope that it will develop to even more balanced trade, and we hope that at a certain point the balance will be in favor and positive in favor of Kenya. I don't think there is a lot to do for that, just a little bit more to do. I assisted a couple of weeks ago to an event about a signature of a memorandum of understanding between the Kenya Chamber of Commerce and a development agency of Mayotte. Mayotte is an island, you might have heard of it. It's part of the far territories of France. It's actually France, but it's an island not far from Madagascar. So it's not far from here either. I think it's about probably 1 day by ship and probably 3 hours by flight. There are 3 connecting flights of Kenya Airways from Kenya to Mayotte. There are about 2 or 3 times connection by boat. But there is almost no trade between Kenya and Mayotte. Mayotte imports a lot from European Union, from France in particular. But due to the distance, the logistics, a kilo of tomato in Mayotte costs 13 euro, which is more than 1,000. I think probably it's about 1,500 shilling. So you understand how much, the low trade can affect a country like an island like that. There are 400,000 people, and there is a lot of opportunity of exports from Kenya due to the connections I explained. So that's a goldmine opportunity to increase export from Kenya to a part of Europe which is not properly in our continent, but is not far from you. And this is something that hopefully this memorandum of understanding with other support cooperation programs will develop. I've heard that there is a possibility, a potential of $1 billion exports to Mayotte. So imagine, I just talked about 3 billion of overall trade between the EU and Kenya. So you have export now towards European Union overall 1.3. If you add 1 billion or even half of it, automatically your balance of trade would be positive. So let's work together for that happening. And I know that this memorandum of understanding is going to move things forward. Yes. Mike already talked about the EPA implementation strategy. By the way, we have today in the room the consultant, Simon. Where is Simon? Simon is our consultant with the support of the EU Dialogue Facility. He's actually coordinating the drafting of this EPA implementation strategy. And all of you in the room, are potential source of valuable information to inform the strategy that Simon is drafting in coordination with the State Department for Trade. And we hope that this indeed will give a roadmap and will be a guidance for all stakeholders on how to achieve the objectives of the EPA. Also, we as donors, we are waiting very much to hear what are the priorities and what is the donor support? Because I work for the European Union, but we are a network together with our member states, and some member states are asking me constantly, how can we support in the EPA implementation? What kind of need we can address? And I cannot respond either that I don't know. I need to know from Kenya, and that is why this EPA implementation strategy is very important. But there are challenges, we know, and of course we cannot hide the fact that we have very restrictive, very demanding regulations, even for our farmers, for anybody who wants to put a product in the market in the European Union. You have to comply with a number of regulations. These are to protect consumer health, but also plant health, animal health, but also, it is also to protect the environment. So we have more and more stringent regulation, and we understand the difficulty to comply with them. One of the last, just to give an example, you might have heard about the EU deforestation regulation. The EU deforestation regulation is a regulation that aims to avoid that certain products, which are listed in the regulation, and also any derivative, any product, byproducts coming from those products can be put on the European market with the result that these products have caused deforestation. So basically, there has to be some evidence provided by the traders that import these products into Europe that these products have been the result of a farming without deforestation. So they are deforestation free. And coffee is one of the products that, for instance, are affected by this regulation, and that, as Michael mentioned, is one of the exports from Kenya to the European Union. So how do we manage to allow compliance with the regulation? In order to provide evidence that coffee has been exported without deforesting, you need to actually map all the smallholder farmers where they are, to prove that these beans have come from that specific plot that has been mapped. This requires a lot of efforts. And this is just to give an example. We realized even ourselves that the deadline we are given to comply with this regulation was a bit too ambitious. In principle, the application would have entered into force, the application of these rules of providing evidence by the end of this year. But the European Commission, realizing the difficulty to comply, has extended by 1 more year. It has actually submitted a proposal to the European Parliament to extend the application, the entry into force, let's say, end of next year. So I'm confident the European Parliament will approve this, will adopt this proposal, and therefore the EU deforestation regulation it will be extended by 1 year. But this is just to give you an example. There are a lot of other regulations, phytosanitary rules. When there is an even small residual of a pesticide that is prohibited in Europe, in a consignment of agricultural product coming from any third country, this is not accepted. It will be rejected. So, and it's complying with this, with these pesticide regulations requires laboratories, a lot of controls at the point of the farmers and also at the point of export. And this is all the capacity buildings we are trying to provide to our partner countries in order to comply with this regulation. So we are aware of these issues. And for that reason, we have a number of programs supporting capacity building and compliance with our regulation. And I'm happy to have today in the room Anna from Trademark Africa. Is one of our most important program in support of EPA implementation, called BEEP. I'm sure she will explain more in detail what it is about. I'm just happy to, to be able to explain what the acronym stands for, because just BEEP is is 3E. It stands for Business Enhancement Export. No, actually no. Business Environment Export Enhancement Program for 3E. And the value chains where we are actually supporting in that program is avocado, mango, and horticultural products in general. We have other programs called Markup 2, and this is a regional program implemented by International Trade Center. And the value chains that are addressed, there are different components depending on the country and the region. With respect to Kenya, coffee is one of the value chains addressed, and indeed that is where ITC is working to build capacity for compliance with EU deforestation regulation. And leather is another value chain addressed by this program, Markup 2, and the third one is packaging. So this, and then we have another one with Colead. It's called Next Kenya. Colead, formerly known as Colead CP, is a program to support farmers in compliance with our sanitary and phytosanitary regulation. This is a program that's currently running, but it should wrap up by the end of next year. And so we have to start planning for a possible next cycle. So this is all the programs that I wanted to mention to you, because these are all, as you can see, they all concern, in a way or another, the agricultural sector. So, and that is where there is a lot of potential. But ideally, we hope that there might be other sectors, not necessarily agriculture, where Kenya will be able, to develop its industry. I think one of the examples, I'm sure that I've heard from PS Kumbudo, that is one of the sectors that he would like to develop and support is the textile and apparel and the clothing sector. Just to make an example of the potential there, Bangladesh was one of the countries that was producing a lot of textile and garment products for Europe, among which also a lot of Italian, companies into the garment sector. But they used to have an everything but arm access to the European market. They have lost or they're about to lose. So why shouldn't Kenya, take over and explore this opportunity? If you produce cotton, and then you have, still lower labor costs compared to the one in Europe, and you have a lot of natural resources. So why not creating this as a hub to export, garment, to produce and export garment and apparel to Europe? Now, this is all. I'm talking about the opportunities in exporting products, but let's not forget indeed that there are some commitments also on the side of Kenya, and some of them will kick in very gradually. It's a long time period. The first dismantling on the tariffs only on 80%, by the way, very gradually, starting 7 years' time, and then only after 25 years, about 80% of input, mainly materials and machinery, will be liberalized, so that imports from Europe will come to zero, as I say, after 25 years, and excluding some sectors where you still need to protect your industry and your sectors. And agriculture and food, these are the clear example, and also, of course, garment and textile sector. But there are already some obligations, which I should remind everybody of the audience, that kicked in immediately. And this is the fact that the so-called standstill obligation, whereby Kenya is committed under the agreement, and this is normally under all other agreements, not to raise new duties or not to increase existing ones. So this is something we have all to be very careful about. Because we are noticing already some proposed bills that are pending before the National Assembly. So we have to discuss about this, of course. We cannot forget that there are commitments on both parties, and this is important because a trade agreement, let's not forget, wants also to attract investors. And the good thing of a trade agreement is that it creates predictable, long-term, transparent rules that investors, would like to be confident about. And if that is something also that the trade agreement brings, potential new investors. So we have to make sure that both parties, of course, comply with the commitments in the agreement. That's all I want to say, and I mean, I'm happy then to discuss in the panel afterwards and to answer any other questions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Asante sana, Mr. Philip Amato. And you can see how Mr. Madu's presentation and Mr. Amato's presentation are dovetailing into each other and making life easier for all of us. When I listen to the two presenters, I'm just seeing opportunities. Can you imagine somebody is telling us, bring your products to European Union, tariff-free, when across the Atlantic, the president-elect of the US is saying, I want tariffs, I want tariffs. So what I'm just hearing here is just good news. I think agriculture sector in Kenya is about to enter its golden age. Because some of you grew up in a farm, but you don't want to go there, if you can be sincere, because there's no money. So when I hear Mr. Mandu and Mr. Mato talking about agricultural opportunities, I think helping girls get into STEM. And she's living by example. So when I see a lady being called engineer, I smile because I see possibilities. And she has also declared that she's dedicated to Ubuntu. I am because you are. She will tell us more whether she has any South African connection or that is the Kenyan Ubuntu. She holds a PhD in civil engineering and construction management. And Dr. Ngugi, I'm giving you your 10 minutes of fame. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Very happy to be here to have this very important discussion with you. Very excited because this is what we do at Trademark. Just to clarify that Trademark Africa is not related to the Trademark Hotel. It's only that we just share the name. Basically, Trademark Africa is about creating access to market. So trade, market, access. So that's our core business, to be able to provide, people to be able to access market, not just the domestic market, but more so on the international market. And that clearly aligns to our discussion today, where we are looking at the EU-Kenya EPA, because that is really where we are looking at how can we be able to export more products to the EU market, because it's a mega market, and as Kenya, following the signing of this EPA, it means we have a great opportunity to really change the narrative. And I think, as Prof have said, I also grew up in a farming environment, so I know how farming used to happen. Sometimes we just do maize for subsistence farming, but there's now more product that we're able to grow, especially the ones which are going to get more revenue, get more income, get more, foreign exchange for the country. So it's now time to really change the narrative, take advantage of the existing opportunities so that we can create change. I'm going to talk about one of the programs that Filippo did mention about that we're implementing as Trademark Africa. It's called BIP. BIP is there's some slides which are there. Business, Environment, and Export Enhancement Program. This is a program that will take 5 years to deliver. The key goal for this is to be able to increase the export of fresh produce from Kenya to the EU market and other global markets. And working with the government of Kenya, we have this ambitious goal that by 2030, we are going to be able to transition the export of fresh produce by sea. Why the sea? Because transportation by sea is fast, it's supposed to be cost effective, it's supposed to be much cheaper by air. It emits less carbon. And of course, there are many, you're able to export huge volume, especially you consider product like avocado. You're able to export huge volumes at a very low cost. So that's one of the goals. And of course, you're also looking at the economic development and jobs development. Allow me to just quickly go through the slides which have been presented, which have been projected there. Oh. Yeah. Thank you. A few highlights on who Trademark Africa is. We are an Aid for Trade organization that was founded in 2010. Our key mission is to increase sustainable and inclusive intra-African trade and the export to the rest of the market. So as we work with different agencies, different stakeholders in the countries that we operate, our key goal is to see that we are going to increase trade, not just trade, but sustainable trade. So sustainability and environmental matters are very key and dear to Trademark Africa. Working with various development partners that we work with, part of it being the European Union. Our vision is really to see Africa pioneering in the sustainable and increased trade growth. And this is important because we believe that if people are thriving through trade, then they're going to be increased prosperity. Currently, we are in our third strategic period that covers year 2023 to 2030, and we are looking at building sustainable and inclusive trade. Just highlighting some quick statistics there. You can see the markets that you're looking at when you consider the EU and the Kenya market. From the statistics, it shows that the market that you're looking at, EU, is about 19 trillion euros in terms of GDP. And for Kenya, we are looking at 110 billion GDP. So that tells you that there's a huge opportunity. The MCC told us to talk about opportunity. There's a huge opportunity that Kenya can be able to really step up and be able to meet. Look at the population that you're looking at. In the EU, it's almost 450 million. Kenya, we are 56.5 million. So you can imagine those many people. What can we be able to make sure that as a country, we are able to export more to feed these many million people, so that the EU does not say, let's get product from other countries, but Kenya really becomes their preferred source of produce. A quick fact about the EPA, you know, that came to force. I not repeat what Mr. Madu already talked about when it came to force the duty-free, quota-free access that you're looking at. Let me just go directly to the BIP program. Yeah. So when you're starting this program called BIP, we did do market assessment to know why is it that we are not able as a country to reach the EU markets. Some of the constraining factors that we found is, one is there's a lot of high costs, which is now affect the competitiveness of the product, such that if you're going to import your product from here, by the time they reach the other side, they become not very competitive price-wise, and therefore affecting the competitiveness of the product. We also looked at the issues of the poor market access. We realized that sometimes there is a narrow export destination that we've not really managed to penetrate to the EU market per se, and part of that because of the stringent requirement. So as a big program, we are trying to unlock some of those, capacity build the Kenyans in the sector, really horticulture sector, so that you can be able to address some of those bottlenecks. We also realized the issue of the access to finance being a key challenge. And at BIP, there's a program that we are working on, looking at how we can be able to catalyze access to credit. And we've designed a system called Trade, working with Faulu Kenya and Trade Development Bank, so that people can be able to, just log in online, upload your credentials, and that you're going to be given credit, which is much better than what a commercial bank will be. So these facilities will basically be tailored towards people who are exporting fresh produce. It's going to be completed soon, and I'm sure once it's launched, we are going to publicize so that people can take advantage of that. We also noted the issue of the sustainability. There's perceived environmental damage that is linked to some of the products that you're using, including the channel right from production to the destination market. And we are trying to address that because most of the, like the EU market, people are very sensitive on how was the product, produced, which chemicals were used, who are the handlers, all that. So we are really trying to look at, as we do this, we are doing it in a sustainable way. We are reducing the environmental, pollution and emission. Greenhouse gases are eliminated. So we also have interventions that are tailored around that. Thank you. So in a nutshell, BIP is a 5-year program, started in 2023, going all the way to 2027. It's one of the really flagship programs under the EPA. So we are very proud to be, working with that, supported by the EU, and we are working with very different many stakeholders, including the Ministry of Trade, KEFIs, KEBS, FPIC. We are really working with a lot of stakeholders as we deliver this, because we realize that together we can do more, and if we go alone, we can't do as much. So this BIP program really looking at boosting green economic growth and creating decent jobs. Because they realize that jobs creation is not just about creating jobs, especially for the young people. It's got to be a decent job. It's got to be a job that is rewarding. So that has been our key focus. That is not just a job, but really decent jobs. At the BIP, we are focusing on 3 value chains specifically, one being the avocados, mangoes, and fresh vegetables. So those are the ones we're looking at, really enhancing the volume of exports and reducing the cost for their export to various destination markets, global markets. So BIP being the flagship program at the EPA is really key for us. And you know that the EU is the largest destination market for Kenya's trade produce. And by the end of BIP implementation, we are looking at that really, those figures really being increasing significantly. This program is well aligned with the EU's Global Gateway strategy that is looking at really boosting smart, clean, secure connection in the digital, energy, and the transport sector. In terms of the this program, it's a 25 million euro program that we're undertaking, which is categorized into 3 components. One component looking at increasing the diversified trade of goods, really seeing how we can be able to increase the volume of goods which are coming from the Kenyan market, but not just the volume, but making sure that they meet the necessary EU requirements. If it's about chemicals, if it's about handling that is required, really making sure that they are well aligned. Then increasing the demand for the Kenyan exports. That's something we're also looking to address at that. The other one is on reducing the trading times and costs, because we realize that there are some countries that are well, geographically located such that the distance from their produce to the EU is much shorter than Kenya. But as Kenya, what can we be able to do to take advantage of our current geographical location? This could mean providing some of those facilities that are going to help in, say, cold storage of fresh produce, controlled atmosphere containers, so that produce, when it's loaded, say, from a farm here, the temperature at which it's conditioned to, it actually arrives to the destination market, say 20 days still, or 25 days, still within the same condition. So those are some of the things that we are looking at. We're also working with the Ministry of Trade to look at the enhanced business climate, really looking at the legal regulatory framework. Recently, you're aware that there is a business laws amendment that is currently under discussion. They're looking at how can they be able to increase, the business environment. There are the issues of packaging that have been raised. There's the issue of the taxation, which now the government is working to see that there's predictability in terms of taxes to just make the way of doing business much better. Moving to the next one, I just highlight just a few key activities that we are undertaking at the BIP. One was to establish and operationalize export supply hub. This is where we are coming up to create a coordinated approach so that we can take advantage of the international export market. The goal of this is really to strengthen the value chains, where we are looking at identifying supply of the three value chains. So far, we have mapped the country to see where do we have the maximum production of avocado, mangoes, and fresh vegetables. We have categorized them. We've done a lot of detailed consultation with the counties when we are doing this. And we realized that the priority ones, which have the highest volumes of exports of the three value chains, there's the one which is Nakuru County, then there was the Murang'a and Makueni, especially because of the mangoes. Otherwise, the list is long, but now we are really focusing on doing a pilot, and the key focus being the Makueni is the one that we are starting with, because Nakuru is already being dealt with. And what we are starting with is not to go to really greenfield area, but really looking at people who are already there and how we can be able to support to increase, is that the facilities there, train people on the key market requirements, provide if it's a physical infrastructure which is required, the necessary one as a priority ones. That's what we're looking at first as we move to the others. The other bit is on the product environmental footprint. This is key because if you want to export to the EU, you've got to look at the issues of the environment, which is very dear to trademark and also to the EU. So under this particular activity, we are looking at mapping the three value chains right from the production level all the way to the destination market. We are going to analyze the amount of carbon emissions that are being involved during production, during processing, during disposal, all the way to the destination market. And once we do that, then you're going to design some specific approaches that are going to help us lower the carbon footprint through that. We believe this is going to be impactful because we know that many markets, people really want to know what are the kind of emissions that are being produced. We are aware that there are countries where actually if the product has, for example, been shipped through air, they will not accept that. They want the approaches where there's a clear demonstration that you are really taking care of our environment and you are reducing the emissions. And part of that could be through the export of produce by sea. And of course, confirming that the produce, the farm inputs that we use are really well considered and that they're good for health. Next one, let me talk about the catalytic trade finance that I mentioned a little bit. This is where we are working with looking at what is happening at the SMEs financing. We know that there are majority of them who want credit, which is especially tailored towards horticulture and is a challenge. So we'll be looking at the ones which are being rejected due to their credit worthiness, insufficient collaterals, bank balances not being sufficient. So we are working at with a specific package so that we are able to address these issues. Really supporting SMEs, be able to borrow. For example, you know that once you get your produce from the farm, by the time you sell and you get paid, possibly it will take about 45 days. So we'll be able to give you a suitable credit that is suitable for that category. So we are really doing a lot of consultation with stakeholders. We are looking at starting to pilot that platform beginning of next year. And we're hoping that it's going to help us because it's going to help the issues to do with now the cost of discovery, the risk calling. We're looking at how we can be able to provide something which is scalable because we believe that once we start small and we see that it's working. There are many, many development partners who are willing to actually put their funding there to support the SMEs. The other activity we are doing, we have set up a public-private sector dialogue platform, currently being chaired by FPIC. This is a platform where we bring the issues that require advocacy. We do not understand there are these issues that always come up affecting how we do business. I know at the moment is the discussion is the currently increased, fees. I don't know, for CAFEs, AFA. It's like almost all government agencies are increasing their prices. So through this dialogue, we are really trying to talk to the government so that they can really, try to minimize that, to make sure that the export is really not negatively affected and that we don't lose jobs which are already created because of the increased cost. So the PPD dialogue is made from public sector, private sector, and we have a whole work plan. We do prioritize the priority activities that we need to discuss, and then we push them on as an advocacy platform. Next is about the master plan and logistics strategy for Nairobi and Naivasha dry ports. Also to mention that we did develop a master plan for the enhancing the shipment of fresh produce by sea. That was finalized, and we worked with different government agencies and consulted different private sector. It was being championed by the Ministry of Transport. So we have a master plan now. As a country, if we wanted to really do a shift to the sea, which is greener, there's a real master plan for it. And what we are doing now is moving towards implementation of those priority items that came out of that. One being the packaging. We realized that there are many people who are not able to access the EU markets because of the kind of packaging that they are using. And we also realized that there was increased cost of packaging because of double taxation, and that is one of the things that's going to be addressed through the business laws amendment. We are also looking at some enhancement of the reefer panels. There are some challenges. For example, if your farm is from Naivasha and you'd like to take your produce to the EU, how do you carry your container from Naivasha all the way to Mombasa port and then to the destination market? So we are working closely with the Kenya Railways, KPM, KRA, KEBS to see that that system is streamlined, and then that there's predictability. Because one of the challenges that you've had is to know, do you have enough volumes? Can a train coming from Naivasha carrying fresh produce actually fill up within a day, and then the product are transported to Mombasa? So those are some of the challenges that we are looking at addressing. Yes, then we are looking at upskilling on the standard and SPS authorities through there's a voluntary third-party assurance program that we are undertaking, really bringing together the standard and phytosanitary authorities so that they can voluntarily be able to implement some of the requirements to be able to access the market at the EU. We've worked with the various industry actors, and there are already some trainings that have been happening, especially on certification. If you want to be certified to be able to, access the EU market, what are the requirements that you need to put in place? So those discussions are ongoing, and we believe that towards the end, we're actually going to see increased volume that is able to access the global markets as well as the EU market. Yes, the other one is really on standard and SPS regulatory framework. Yes, I think this is related to the other one. Here we are really looking at how we can be able to look at the issues of health and safety, because the value chains that we are looking at is really food. So we need to make sure that it's well handled and it meets the health requirement. We are looking at the issues of the, environmental conservation. Yes, so that's a wide sector on the standard and SPS that we are looking at. Of course, working with the other actors who have been in the industry, including the Next Kenya, as Felipe mentioned about. And the other one, we are looking at enhancing the technical and operational capacity for standard and SPS. And also we are looking at enhancing the trade negotiations, really working with the Ministry of Trade, so that we are able to negotiate with various destination markets, so that we can have favorable consideration. Just as you see with the EU now, there is now quota-free, duty-free. We also need to negotiate with more countries. So there's also other aspects of really trade negotiations that we are closely working with the Ministry of Trade. Also to mention that we are really looking at the digital trade, and part of the digital trade we are looking at is upgrade and rollout of the e-procurement infrastructure. We realize that some of the challenges that you're having working in the government is the way the procurement is done. So now you're looking at really digitizing the whole system just to enhance the service provision and make sure that the system is really transparent, and also for open sharing of information, because we realize that a lot of SMEs face challenges because of information maybe it's not readily available, but this through the e-procurement, we believe that is really going to help to unlock that. Yeah. Then I think that's it. Otherwise, there are many things that we are doing at the BIP, including some work on supporting some women traders, just building their capacity. We are also looking at some gender projects. We are looking at, there are quite a number of activities that we are doing, but I thought related to trade, this is specifically what we are doing. What I like to mention about the opportunities I see here, the opportunities are mega. EPA really gives us a huge opportunity to be able to access wider market, but also that we need to put in the hard work to make sure that our produce are actually going to be accepted. At the moment, there's a lot of, there's some containers that are exported, and then when they get there, they are rejected because of the maximum residue levels. So those are some of the things we are looking at addressing through the standard and SPS, so that when the products are living here, we are very sure that they have met the required residue levels for various chemicals. We also sensitizing people on the pesticides that need to be used, and the ones which are not required to enter in the EU, so that we can, when the product really live here, we are sure that people are going to get the money after the product has been sold. Yeah. So in a nutshell, that's it about BIP. But I'd be happy to have further discussion thereafter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hannah Ngoge. She focused on sustainable trade that is going to give us decent jobs. And everybody is talking about opportunities. European Union market has 450 million consumers. And I know for sure there are some countries that are knocking to make that market bigger, like Serbia, which has been trying to get into the European Union since 2012. But what was the difference between Dr. Ngoge and the other prior presenters? They talked about very broad issues, but Dr. Ngoge went to the grassroots on how can it be done. And she gave an example of one of the projects, BIP. She talked about value chains, and very important, involving all the stakeholders. She talked about logistics, regulators, health standards, and all that. Now that we are through with the first panel, now it's your turn to ask the panelists, the three of them, a few questions. So you have a chance to ask that. But before we start asking questions, I want to declare that this group is divided into two. We have very brave people, and we also have cowards. And I want somebody to suggest who are the cowards and who are the brave people in this group. In other words, is it the people on my left, the middle, or on my right? Who are the brave people and who are the cowards? Somebody just give us an answer very quickly. And then if you give me the right answer, I will buy you a drink after this function. And the drink will be at Safari Park. And I will buy you a drink in the company of your choice. Can it get better than that? Who are the brave? Who are the cowards? You don't want to answer. I will give you the answer. These are the brave people. Because you can see they are sitting next to the lions. You ran away from the lions. These are the cowards on this area. So let's have the questions. And please tell us who the question is targeting. Is it the first, second, or the third presenter? Maswari or comment. You can ask a question, you can make a comment. And we can start with this side here so that you can compensate for what I've said, this group here. Question, comment. And there's one presenter we didn't have on that panel, Professor Bitang Demo. He will be coming online later on, so just be patient. He will make his presentation. There are no comments. Yes, there's one here from this Ed here. Yes, give him.
My name is Brigadier Wambugu, and my question or concern goes to Mr. Mandu. You mentioned the counties that you have visited to talk on these opportunities and the agreement. But I'm here from the county of Nyandarua, a very potential agricultural county. I didn't hear you mention about it. Was it by default or priority? And I would want to know that. I'm a farmer there.
We can have another question, then they answer together.
Thank you very much. My name is Joseph Ngaiwatei, and I come from Narok County. I'm a farmer, large-scale barley, wheat, potatoes, carrots, and all this. This is a great opportunity to listen to the three presenters. And therefore, my question goes to mainly the second and the last presenter with regard to the regulations that are set to be able to access the markets. One of the challenges that we face is the influx of agrochemicals that we do not really know whether they meet the standards, especially of food production. And I want to speak mainly about potato production, because it's a field I practice, and we sometimes wonder whether we have regulators on the ground to really regulate the kind of agrochemicals that are used for production of food. And I'm also glad that I know KEF is also on the house, which is also a regulator. I thought probably also PCPB would have been here, because that's the greatest obstacle that as a farmer, I think will be preventing us from getting into the market. So the question is, can we be able to get the standards in terms of what are these substances that we cannot enter into the market if our food or if our produce are used. There was a case of, I don't know whether it is official, I saw it on social media, where this thing called Roundup is banned in one of these countries. And this is something we use very regularly in our farms. So therefore, I really, really wish that we come out very strongly in helping us, the ones on the ground, to know what is it that I do not need to use in the farm for me to be able to access the market. And lastly, of course, a selfish question like what the presenter has asked is that Narok County is also one of the largest producers of food. Where are we left out? Is it that we are not known? So this is a selfish question that probably I may want to find out. How do we join the rest of the country in accessing the EU markets? Finally, is that agriculture is a devolved function, and our director from the ministry, I thought also counties needed to be part and parcel of the process to be able to sensitize us in how to access the EU markets. So what are we doing to make sure that the counties really participate in such beneficial processes to our farmers? Thank you so much.
Suggest they answer those questions. The panelists, do you want to answer from where you are, or do you want to sit at the podium? I'm giving you a choice. Do you want to sit at the podium or sit there? There. Very good. If you want to sit there, give them the mic. Oh, there's another question. Please ask. The last one, then we go to the second round.
My name is Patrick Musioki from FPIC. My question goes to Michael Mandu from the Ministry of Trade. Are you aware that currently that the exporters, which FPIC represents, they are having a lot of shortage in terms of cargo capacity? And my question is, as a State Department of Trade, because we have raised this issue several times now, with conjunction with the Ministry of Transport, have there any measures you have put in place to see how we can increase the capacity, the JKA? Because currently the exporters are losing millions every week, up to 100 millions, because of lack of cargo capacity in the airport. And this really is giving headache in terms of the organization in trying to answer to our members, what are we doing? Now that you are in the building today, and I know the government works together, I know you can also talk to the Ministry of Transport. Are there any steps that have been made up to now regarding solving that problem, the JK? Thank you.
Any other? There's a question from this young lady here. The good thing is we still have another panel later on, so if I cut you off, you still have another chance.
Thank you so much. My name is Jennifer Wairimu, the President, Kenya Youth Organization. I'm here to represent over 11,000 young people in the country who are countrywide, and who some of them are into agribusiness. Some are doing the bamboo and other produce, and they are not enlightened enough on the export. So I'm excited by the presentation of Madame, given, and I'm just going through the newsletter about the agreement that was passed of the duty-free and all that. It's more of a comment, not really a question, but maybe just to requests. If this presentation, maybe we could be able to access it, because we shall be having a meeting this Friday and Saturday of different young people in the country coming in Nairobi for our NDR meeting, and it would be great for me to share with them about this great information. So that is one. Secondly, just to comment that I'm so delighted to be part of this conversation. And so humble to be invited here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We think that the young people like this really should be on the keyboard. But you're telling us you can move from the keyboard to the land, to the chambers, and so on. We want more of you. I think Dr. Kambage is a very good charge on how you can integrate with what they are doing this Friday. And I'm very sure Mashariki has capability of doing something for that group. So you're in safe hands. So the group who want to go first before we go to the next round. You can, let's start with Mr. Mandu, because you are the first. Mr. Mandu, then Mr. Amato, then Dr. Goge will be the last.
Thank you very much for, I don't know whether there are really questions or is it an expression of a hunger to learn more about this agreement. And I'll begin from Brigadier Wambogo. We were not very selective, but I thought we were very intentional. When you look at the areas that we talked about, we thought they represent regions. We thought Nyandara was either close to Nakuru or, I think more closer to Nakuru. Yeah, I know they're neighbors, but they're closer to Nakuru. And therefore, we had hoped that, we worked with the business membership organizations to reach out to as many people as possible. And to surprise you, we got 4 people from Narok County coming to Nakuru to listen to us speak about that agreement. So we are doing what is called first round, which we are targeting the key headquarters in the regions. And then from there, we'll go for second round. That means we'll go a little bit more to mashinani to be able to reach as many producers as possible. So we are not left out. We know the potential that is in Nyandarua County and the surrounding areas. And I think we'll be a little bit more targeted. Remember, we are talking about sensitization. But later on, we thought we'll convert it to some kind of training. Apart from telling you about the agreement, we'll also talk about what do you do in order to get at market. Do you just put your products on the back and then you go? What steps you need to go through? So that's what we're trying to package, and we're still talking very good to this guy called Amato, if he can go deeper into his pocket to give us that portion. But that's a story between me and him. It's not for you. And I should also answer to my friend from Narok. We got 2 directors, one from Agriculture Department, another one from Trade. And we got 2 people from the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And we agreed with them that they are going to trigger a process where we can kind of speak to the people in Narok. And through any communication with them, we asked them to find a venue to recruit the people and also to provide their own logistics. And then they invite us to kind of speak to them. So that's something which is on the cards. Now, we've recorded the rest of the counties, and I recall, Dr. when we were in your meeting, the Council of Governors were very clear that they want to be part of this process. And our guidance to them is they can organize themselves in what we call the regional economic blocks that they have. Once they do that, they invite us to speak to the key officials in agriculture, in cooperatives, in trade, in investment, in tourism. Then from there, they become the carriers of this message down to their actors in the county. So those are the approaches that we are using to make sure that this information goes as far down as possible. I remember we're not just talking about the UK EPA. We are talking about the EPA with the EU. The EU, we're talking about the EPA with the UK. We are talking about the Africa Free Trade Area. We are talking about the Tripartite Free Trade Area. Many agreements that we have, but many people have not taken advantage of because they don't know that there are opportunities in those agreements. So that's what we have in our mind to do. The question of cargo space is more of a private sector issue than government. Why? Because government is not in the airline business. It is actually in facilitating. But in terms of cargo, if you look at the transport network, most of the cargo flights are east and west. From west to east to west, you've had a lot of flights. Now, for our cargo space, we depend on mainly passenger aircrafts that have come into Nairobi and therefore they are going back. So we use the hulls of the cargo of the passenger flights. So that's a trend that we have, that we need to attract more passenger aircraft into Nairobi so that we can get sufficient cargo capacity to help our people. Obviously, if we say KQ were to do a fully cargo aircraft alone, then when they go into Europe, what they come back with? They'll come back with nothing. So there'll be no appetite for Kenya just to create cargo flights to drop off the fresh produce into Europe and come back empty. We need to look at the business case. Nevertheless, the department is in cooperation with the ministry responsible for transport to make sure that we get things moving in the right way. Is it a problem of charges? Is it a problem? These are things that we are looking at. And I think we have had a meeting between my PS and his counterparts to discuss that whole agenda, and I believe something that is still continuing. And I think those were the key questions. But I also recall on the issue of banned chemicals and what have you. I've been around a little bit, and I remember in 2010, the government proposed banning some agrochemicals or some pest control products that were not good for our products. And you know, because Kenya is very democratic, people went to court and they got an injunction. The injunction was, allow us to complete what we have in stores, then the ban can come into force. Do you know that chemicals are still in store up to now? That's the problem. And that's something that we need to wake up as users to say, I think it's important for us to use only those pest control products that are good for our products. You see, if we just leave it to government alone, people will go to court forever. They can't even go for 100 years because there's no proving that those products are now exhausted from the storehouses. How do you prove it? It's difficult. So that's why we are. So those are some of the things that we thought we need to look at it holistically as a people, as exporters. Do we need to work at the behest of the agro dealers, or do we need to work at the good of what's good for our health? Not just for export, but also for our own health, right? So those are my comments, ladies and gentlemen. Don't know who else was that. Was it Amato?
Yes, I answered the question for a gentleman concerning the standards to export. I understand basically potatoes. Now, I must admit that I'm not an expert of the potato sector, although I like potatoes. So I don't know how to answer exactly the standards. What I can say is that we have some programs. I mentioned the Goliath Next Kenya program, which helps and supports farmers in complying with our standards, particularly sanitary, phytosanitary. And I know that they might provide support, so I would recommend you to address yourself to Goliath to see whether they can still indicate what is. I don't know what are the. I haven't heard about potatoes being big exports. So it may be if there is not yet a lot of export of potato from Kenya to Europe, there will be a groundbreaking news if you manage once you know what the standards are. And I'm sure if there are no exports, Goliath will be very happy to support. I know that we are supporting also in general the horticultural sector. Potato might be one of the crops that are supported by our BEEP program, something you might want to consider. And then next is Anna, who will answer this. Yeah, I might also recommend you to have a look at there is actually a portal, a web site called Access to Markets. You just Google this for general interest. I forgot to mention it, but it's quite important, a useful instrument. It's free access for anybody who wants to find it on just Google Access to Markets. You can even put number 2 instead of 2 in letters, Access to Markets. You will be brought to a web page where you can actually insert the custom code of the product you want to export. You can see a lot of statistics of what are, for instance, the exports from Kenya or any other country to any of the specific 27 member states or all the EU member states. So you can see whether Kenya is already exporting potatoes, for instance. You can see which countries is exporting potatoes, but you can also see what are the applicable regulation and rules to that particular product. So you might find some of the answer to your question on our website. Yes, and I think that is all I can answer. Thanks.
Thank you. I think the questions have already been addressed, but just to put my voice to it, on the influx of, as those pesticides, chemicals, is really a concern that we need to put a close. Especially, first to clarify that potatoes is not part of the value chain that you're looking at the BEEP, but for sure we'll be glad to do that. I'm sure Filippo will consider that in the next cycle of funding, because it's key, and if it affects people's health, then it means it's important to look at. But for the other value chains that you're looking at the BEEP, that is the avocados, mangoes, and fresh vegetables, we are really sensitizing the exporters, especially huge exporters. We are not dealing with the very, very small scale, but rather we are using more exporters or more large scale on the concentrated allowed the export supply hub area that we talked about, so that they can also trickle in the information. Recently, I know we had some meetings and sensitization in Makueni, Muranga, even Nakulu. Maybe, I don't know, maybe some of you are involved in that. Just to be sensitized, what is the requirement to access the EU market? Which chemicals should you use, should you not use? And how to really manage the use of chemicals. So that's something that we are doing, but not really for potatoes. And I think we'll really be looking also how you can be able to venture in beyond the 3 value chains, because we do hear, we get information from stakeholder forums like this, and that really appears like from a need, especially from Nyandalo has been mentioned here, and I know that they do a lot of potatoes. So I think it's something that we'll be thinking about and discussing about. The other thing was on the sensitizing the youth. Yes, it's important. Please share the information. Let them know the opportunities which are there so that they can take full advantage. Yeah, because the opportunities and the best we can is to help someone. Help someone, then that's someone, we help someone like that. And with time, we'll have changed people's lives. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, panelists. You have another chance to answer other questions later on. Most of the questions that have been asked are about agriculture. So the best thing to do to address that issue is to go to the next panel, which is about agriculture. And we have 4 presenters. Each of them has 7 minutes of fame. Faith Dunge, are you here? Yes, welcome aboard. You'll be the first one. Then what I want to do is I want to be like a business person. In the introduction, I will use wholesale. Then in presentation, it will be retail. So I'm going to introduce all of you, then you come one by one. So Faith Dunge has a background in agriculture and worked with the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service CAFIS. So some of the issues of standards of that name, you address them. And she's a deputy director, Standards, International Obligations and Trade. So you could not be coming at a better time, based on the questions that have been asked in the last few minutes. And Faith Dunge is a member of the Implementation and Capacity Development Committee of International Plant Protection Convention, and she holds a bachelor's degree in horticulture and diploma in international trade from International Trade Center. Our next presenter is Patrick Musyoki. Are you here? Yeah, he's a Musyoki. Ah, you are there. Very good. He's an agronomist, compliance and technical specialist. And he has worked with fresh produce export companies, VAT Limited, Fresh Produce Exporters Limited, and Gong Vegetables as a compliance specialist and agronomist. And he holds a Bachelor of Science in Soil Science and Plant Nutrition from Maseno University. He has done many other things, but you see them written there. Mr. Joseph Wagura, are you there? Yes, right at the back, but I can confirm you are not a coward. Mr. Joseph Wagura is the current Chief Executive Officer of the Avocado Exporters Association of Kenya. And please, when you make your presentation, you tell us why Kenyan ladies have been using avocados on their hair. Please explain that. And is the premier membership organization for avocado exporters. I saw something on BBC that was very funny about avocados. He is a seasoned trainer in ethical, environmental, and food safety standards, compliance, as well as certified auditor of the same. And he has vast experience in climate change adaptation technologies among small-scale holder farmers who have been raising issues. Yeah. The next presenter is Sharon Wanjiko Chipukizi. She is currently the Secretary of Avocado Aggregate Association of Kenya. Avocados are well represented and the Youth Representative National Avocado Task Force. And she holds a diploma in business management from Kenyatta University and is currently pursuing a Bachelor of Commerce from Kenyatta University. Well represented in the agricultural sector in terms of the sectors, in terms of age, in terms of everything. Faith Dunge, get your 7 minutes of fame. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Yes, so I will try to fit into the 7 minutes. You've already been told who I am, and I will begin by giving you a background of KEFIS, discuss what sanitary and phytosanitary measures are, have a slide on the provisions in the agreement of EPA, discuss just a slide on regulations and compliance and how to address non-compliances, because I was asked to discuss about matters of compliance. So KEFIS is a government parastatal under the Ministry of Agriculture, and our main roles include matters of plant health. That includes inspection at the points of entry and exit, before entry and export. And after inspection, we issue a phytosanitary certificate, which is a plant passport, just the way you will need a passport to go to another country. Plants also require a passport to ensure that the plants have been inspected and they are free of pests and diseases. We also regulate matters relating to seeds and plant varieties. We are not only the National Plant Protection Organization that deals with matters of plant protection, but we are the designated National Seed Authority. Therefore, we do inspection of seed to ensure that you get the correct seed right from registration. All those who grow seed, those who multiply seed, and those who export seed must be registered, and we do inspection at those critical points to ensure that farmers get the right seed. Other than that, we do national performance trials for those who breed seeds. We have to ensure that the seeds have undergone through the system of ensuring that they are suitable in various agroecological zones. So if you have a variety you have bred, then it has to undergo the national performance trials to ensure that it's suitable to that particular zone that you have said it is. And we also ensure that it is a suitable variety for the specific areas. And not only that, we have to ensure it is distinct, uniform, and stable, because you have to describe the way the seed looks, and we have to ensure that in terms of productivity, it gives good productivity. We also give issue plant breeders' rights for those who have bred their seeds. They register their seed with KEFIS, and that seed is not required to be used, or nobody else should benefit from that seed. And that is how people get royalties for their seed, just the way those who do music are protected by copyrights and other intellectual property mechanisms. So basically, that is it for what we do. And so it is good for us to understand what sanitary and phytosanitary measures are. I know people talk about standards, but just to distinguish from what the Kenya Bureau of Standards are, we will call them measures. And these are either government laws, regulations, and standards and guidelines that are required to protect human, animal, and plant health. This definition comes from the World Trade Organization because we deal in a global context. Because when you talk of trade of plants and plant products or other sanitary and phytosanitary products, for example, if you are selling animal products or you're selling processed food, they must meet the sanitary and phytosanitary requirements. And therefore, those are the methods that, those are the measures that we use that are based on international standards. And these include food safety, animal and plant health, and plant health measures. Plant health is what is called phytosanitary. And we aim to ensure safe and healthy food and agricultural products. That is why when we do inspection, we have to ensure that your products are free from pests so that the importer does not get the pests. Otherwise, when the importer gets the pests on the product, that is an non-compliance. The other issue is the issue of the maximum residue levels that have been mentioned prior to this. And KEFIS, as an institution, has a program where they check the levels of the MRLs. Right now, the requirement is to have 0 level of detection, so the pesticides must not be detected. Those are the requirements that the EU requires. We have in the EPA some provisions on matters of sanitary and phytosanitary requirements. And if you look at the Economic Partnership Agreement, from Articles 30 to 37, they outline various SPS measures. Some of them include aspects of equivalence. So if you want to export, what various methods might you use to ensure that they are free from freedom of pests? For example, if you have something like water, what we use every day, and you want to ensure that it is okay for you, you might boil it, you might use water guard, or any other method to ensure that that water is safe. And therefore, when we talk of equivalence, there are various methods to ensure that products are free from pests, they are free from diseases, or they meet requirements of a market by various methods. So that is what we call equivalence. The other issue is the issue of zoning and compartmentalization. For example, a country may have pests, but you can zone a place and ensure that you have put measures to ensure there are no pests there. Either it could be a small area, you could have a big area, and some of the initiatives that have been taken is to have a pest-free area. There's one that is being developed in Makueni, and that is also one of the issues we talk about equivalence. Either you can use any method to prevent infestation of pests. But when you have such a pest-free area, then it is, and you can be able to back it up by data that is taken frequently to ensure that when you are saying it is free from pests, then there is data to support it. So that is another issue, that is the zoning and compartmentalization. That equally applies to animal health, whereby you can have a section where you have your animals, and animal health is guaranteed in that particular area. And sometimes when you have heard of quarantine, remember during COVID, people were being quarantined because you are not supposed to go and infect other people. And the same is done for animals. They can be quarantined to ensure they don't move from one area to the other to spread pests. And therefore, when you compartmentalize, it means you have taken enough measures to ensure that no spread of pests is in that particular area, and you can use that as something a measure to support you in terms of trade. And the Kenya-EU EPA agreement also has definitions to guide us, which are based from the WTO SPS agreement. In order to enable us to comply as a country, we ensure there is need for us to adhere to SPS regulations. And we have quite a number of regulations, some in animal health. We, in the East African community, we have regulations, for example, that define on aspects like the aflatoxins, what levels can be permissible, and what is beyond what is safe is not required to be imported. So we have all these regulations, guidelines, acts that enable us to comply, and therefore for any person who wants to export and those who also export to our country are required to adhere to these regulations. Some of them include the Land Protection Act, whose main aim is to prevent the introduction and spread of diseases, disease-destructive destruction to plants. When you export to the EU, if you want to export to the EU, there are also a number of directives that are specific to plant, to animal health, and just one of them is the Regulation EU 2031 of the European Union, which sets to protect measures against pests of plants, regulations, and it has a binding legal force throughout every member state that products should enter into. This means that if you're exporting there, then you must be conversant to these market requirements. So each country has the regulations. And so coming to SPS compliance, it is key to having market access to the European Union, because if we do not comply, we are not allowed to export. But if the European Union also don't comply to our requirements, we cannot allow them to import, because these regulations, as we have said, they are legally binding. Yes, we do have an agreement, but each country has autonomy in how they do their requirements. But also, because it is an agreement, we have obligations to adhere to what we have put in this agreement. And therefore, SPS compliance refers to adherence to regulations and standards to prevent the spread of pests and disease and to ensure food safety and quality. When it comes to matters of international trade, we have three bodies that are responsible for standard setting. And for animal health, it is World Organization for Animal Health. For plants, is the International Plant Protection Convention. And for food safety is the Codex Alimentarius. So these standard setting bodies, they set standards that are acceptable and that go through consultation processes in various countries, in all countries of the world where countries are either members or contracting parties, and these are important guidelines that we can use. We also have the Kenya Bureau of Standards in our country, and it is good for us to get to understand them, get to know them. For somebody who is a starter, there is the KS 1758. We have part 1 and part 2. One is on flowers and the other one is on fruits and vegetables. So these guidelines enable us to comply to requirements in any country that we are supposed to export. But of course, countries have different requirements and we must learn what they are. And some of the non-compliances that we have faced as a country include presence of pests. Some pests like the fruit flies are common in mangoes, and those have been a challenge. In chilies and in cut flowers, we have had the false codling moth, particularly in roses. And as we export, it's important that we know what the pests are so that we are able to take measures right early on. And these non-compliances can result in loss of markets as well as loss of credibility, whereby our credibility is dented if we do not comply. And in order for us to address the non-compliances, we must be able to understand market requirements, what they are, so that we can take measures right from the point of production. We also need to implement structures that support compliance. That includes training of staff, capacity building of staff. Continuous capacity building is important because regulations and requirements change with time, and therefore we must continually train our staff. We must have the right technology to manage pests, and of course collaboration between the government and other stakeholders, for example, in this forum is very key, because this is how we spread the information, we form networks, and we know who can enable us and who can educate us in terms of the measures that we need to implement, either in our farms or at the pack house or in the particular value chain. Also, there's also opportunity to seek for technical assistance. But other than that, there are other opportunities of doing research and development together with other institutions, for example, academia, research institutions. Those would be very helpful to us to ensure that we are able to get solutions to the challenges that we are having. And so that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. So let me take this just a minute to respond to something that had been mentioned. And this has to do with the issue of fees and charges. One of the challenges that has been there is that the funding from the exchequer has continued to reduce, and this has necessitated implementation of the fees that you see. But we are happy to have TMA for an advocate, because they are advocating for us. And so if we get the enough funding, then it would not necessitate us increasing fees. And I think one of the issues is that of course, we all feel inflation. We all feel it. And even institutions feel it. Everything has become more expensive. Fuel, the cost of running business, cost of ICT. All these things have a factor in how we deliver the service. And therefore, I believe all of us, one way or the other, face the challenges. But these are issues that can be further discussed in various forums, as well as one-on-one. Thank you very much.
Asante sana, very articulate, and she responded one of the issues that was raised by the previous panel, in the previous question sessions. She has responded to that. That was very kind, Faith Dunge. So we have Patrick Musyoki, you have 7 minutes of fame. Then after that, we shall ask them questions later on. So if you have any question for any of them, please record it. There will be time to ask the questions. Mr. Musyoki Patrick. You have 7 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Patrick Musyoki. I work with Fresh Produce Exporters of Kenya in the technical department. FPIC is a member organization which represents exporters of fresh produce, and that's vegetables and fruits. FPIC is, its main work is advocacy and lobby. And one of the main work of FPIC is to make sure that our members, who are the exporters, they have favorable business environment. That is to make sure, like some of the issues which has been discussed here, it's sorted and it makes now the business favorable. Also, as an organization, we do what we call market linkages. We try to find a way on how we can, how our members can access market. And what we are discussing here today is the EPA agreement, which as an organization, we agree and accept that it has created some good opportunities. But as an organization, one of the, what we have noted, which I want to take a few minutes to discuss here, is that those opportunities which we see now, this agreement, is hindered by several internal issues here. And one of those issues, of which some have been mentioned here, is the high cost of doing business. As members or as the exporters, they feel that some of those levies, the fees, the inputs, that is the agrochemicals, the seeds, is making now the opportunities which we are seeing in that agreement, the opportunities are not coming out. So as we speak here today on exploiting those opportunities which EPA has given us, is to see how we can be able to improve on how the exporters or the business people can get favorable business environment to make sure we export more in the US. Just last week, we had a meeting when we were, I think Dr. Han Guk for Trademark has mentioned that. Last week, we had a workshop in Makueni about establishing an export hub. One of the things that came out from that workshop is that we are exporting very little amount of mangoes and avocados to the EU. Most of it is going to the Middle East and those other countries. But why is it we are exporting very little or none of these fruits? Because of one is the fruit fly and also the FCM. The EU market is very articulate on making sure that there is no entry of those quarantine pests. KPC is here, as mentioned, what they do. Their work is to make sure that whatever you expect to EU, it meets the requirements. Now, this is what I'm talking about now. what we can do to make sure we exploit that opportunities is to do some research. Mashariki tried to work on those research, and what I can now suggest is that try to do research on tackling these pests and disease to open that opportunity, because you are sure now, as Kenya, we are producing a lot of avocados. As we speak now, we are in season of mangoes, but ask a question, how much is it going to that EU? Very little. And the reason is, we are not able to meet the standards. We are not able to make sure that we are eradicating FCM and the fruit fly, which is a quarantine pest in that market. And again, the issue of exceedance. Our exporters, they get these products, the raw materials, from small-scale farmers. Now, the other day I was in a training in Nyandarua and Nakuru, and the farmers, they don't even know what is global gap. They don't understand those standards. And then you tell them now to make sure they meet the standards. So what I'm saying is that we need capacity building to those small-scale farmers, because now they are the one who produce the raw materials, which now the export company is exposed to that market. So if we are not able to unlock the internal issues here, and then we talk of now the opportunities that HEPA provided for us, we'll not be doing anything. So first is to make sure that, and that is what as organizations as we are advocating for, that we try to make that our business people, those who are now doing the business direct, they are having that favorable business. The cost of levies and the taxes, they are very high. You find that, again, the export company is the one which to provide the agronomist, the technical person to go to the field. The government also needs to have more extension officers so that they can reach more of those farmers and the producers on the ground, so that we improve on meeting the requirements of the market. One of the challenges we are facing is that we are not meeting the requirements. And if we are not meeting the requirements, you will not be able to unlock now those opportunities. That's now where I am, as an organization, we are trying to tell the government and also the other players. And also I have to appreciate the work that the trademark is doing. They are doing a good job to make sure that we also try to have this work done under the B project, which SPIC is part of. We are trying to do some capacity building to technical assistance of those companies to make sure they understand what the market needs and we improve on the situation. So as an organization, we see and we accept that EPA is creating a very good opportunity for business. But again, we feel there's a lot to be done to improve on the business. The business is about the value, the volumes. If we need to do a lot, we need to improve the volumes we're exporting to these markets every year. The other thing is about most of the producers, they produce in what we call conventional farming. They use chemicals. Again, we lack a good knowledge on, someone there has a question about chemicals. You find that those who are producers, they don't know which chemical is prohibited, which chemical is good. They just go to agrovet they buy. And now when these exporters, they buy these products, they send it to the EU, we get what we call rejection. Now, that makes us as a country lose these markets, because if we continue exporting products which are not meeting the market, now that market goes to other people. We have like the countries like Morocco. When the season comes and they are just close to EU and they have good quality products which are meeting the market, it means as Kenya, we are losing that market. So there's a lot to be done in terms of capacity building to producers, to the business people, to make sure as a country we improve on the volumes we expect. And just to finish that, the EU market has a lot of restriction in terms of complying with what you have to export. And that is where mostly we are losing the market. If we are able to improve on that, I think we'll be able to unlock those opportunities which was created by this Kenya Economic Partnership Deal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you can realize that if you have any issue, all the stakeholders are here. So just you talk to them, and most likely before the end of 3 hours, you have a solution for your problem. Mr. Wagura, all the questions for Patrick, please keep them until the plenary time. Karibu sana.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much indeed. As it has been said, my name is Wagura. My name is Wagura, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Avocado Exporters Association of Kenya. For some technical reasons, my presentation, surprisingly, is not with her, but worry not, I'll be able to convey the message that I needed to do. So for one, the Avocado Exporters Association of Kenya is a business membership organization with about 200 members, all of whom export exclusively avocados. It is managed by a secretariat together with a board of management that is comprised of about 11 board members. What opportunities do we have with EPA with regard to avocados? At the moment, we have the 42 counties growing avocados out of the total 47. We have about 150,000 smallholder farmers who grow avocados. That means that 70% of the production of avocados comes from smallholder farmers, and only 30% comes from large estates. And out of these, 80% is consumed locally. What an opportunity we have. That if we could increase the amount, that means if 80% is consumed locally, only 20% is exported. What a chance do we have to improve that percentage towards 50% exporting to the European Union now that we have the EPA opportunity. But what are the hindrances to getting to the European Union? Patrick has mentioned about pests and diseases. The forest codling moth is a quarantine pest. That is what he called FCM. That is a quarantine pest or a pest of priority in the European Union. Its requirement is 0 at the point of entry. You cannot have FCM and at the same time enter the European Union. So what do we need to do? Because that opportunity, we cannot just let it go. If, and I'm looking at trademark at the moment as I speak, if we had these farmers put into groups, legal entities, then you approach from a point of getting one youth among the 25 members, one youth member to be trained on how to apply chemicals, which chemicals to apply, and when to apply. Because if you apply some chemicals too close to harvesting, you don't observe the PHI, definitely the MRL on the other side will be exceeded. And upon exceedance of MRL, you cannot enter the European Union. In the year 2023, we had 12 interceptions of MRL exceedance at the point of entry in the many ports in the European Union. Therefore, if those farmers are put into those groups, then one person, one youth person, trained, apply the chemicals, apply them the best way, and upon applying, you know even when they are applying, so that you are able to get the MRLs. That way, you'll be able to solve that problem of MRLs. You'll not have the pests, 1, 2, you will not have the problem of MRLs. And there we are in the European market. But what else is hindering us to enter the European market at the moment? The Suez Canal is closed. The fighting is going on, and no ship can pass through the Suez Canal. Around November, I was in Cairo, negotiating for the Egyptian ships to allow to come to Mombasa and try and get our avocados in the new season as it opens, because for some reason they are able to pass through the Suez Canal. Don't ask me why, because I don't know. But it's very expensive. It's very expensive for those ships to come here, because what happens to our avocados before they leave Mombasa? You have 5 days harvesting and packing. You have another 2 days to get to Mombasa. Then that cargo goes to Salalah in Oman for bulking. Then from Salalah, now take the trip to South Africa, West Africa, Straits of Gibraltar, and to somewhere either in Marseille or in Rotterdam. That is about 40, to the minimum, about 40 days. Definitely your avocados, under chill, they are already spoiled. So when they get to the other market, there is sorting. Probably you may be lucky to have 2 or 3 cartons remaining. That is a huge loss, because you can't pass through the Suez Canal. If somebody can bring that war to an end between the Palestinians and the Israelis, then probably the Suez Canal will be reopened. That is a barrier. And at the moment, unless the other option that we have is that you take your fruits from Nairobi via Tanzania, Zimbabwe, to the Cape. That's another 6 days to get there. Now, from 6 days, actually, the Musk, yes, I knew you have it. You had it. Musk will be able to pick them up from there, then around to West Africa and to the other side of the world. Now, that time also is, I mean, getting all the way from Nairobi all the way to Tanzania past. That's another 6 days of drive if you're coming from Jombe. Probably if you're coming from Nairobi, you'll need another 1 day to get to Jombe, from Jombe down to another 6 days. But that's actually far much better than 42 days, because it amounts to about 26, 27 days. You might get your avocados safely on the other side. Now, there is also processed oil. We are the second producer of avocado oil. This is an important, if this is allowed also through the EU, then we have an opportunity to export the avocado. This reduces waste, because all those ripened avocados, all those sizes 26, 28, all these will go into avocado oil, and avocado oil is a value-added product that will get to the destination, and that will increase our production. I've mentioned about the interceptions. I've mentioned about force-codling moth and the other pests. Others are not necessarily quarantine pests, but FCM, or force-codling moth, is a quarantine pest, and it cannot enter the European Union. Next. The other problem is our seedlings. We do not have enough seedlings to grow the avocados. If we could get more registered nurseries, and these nurseries, upon registration, we get true to type seedlings. Because at the moment, anyone on the street may be having avocado seedlings, but are you sure that is a Hass avocado? Are you sure that is a Fuerte avocado? If you're sure that is Pickington, if you're planting those lines. So we need to have more of them registered, and also registered by Horticultural Crops Development Authority, or HCD Directorate. That makes sure, and the local county, that makes sure that that is inspected. And then KEFIS will go ahead and register it for phytosanitary purposes, because you do not want to transfer a diseased plant from the nursery to the planting fields. And Caro is a solution. In Thika, they have those registered nurseries, and those nurseries will be able to get us better quality. I talked about non-tariff barriers as well, certification costs. Certifications like Global Gap, they are very, very important. Global Gap is a farm gate certification program. Very important, but the cost of doing that is not cheap, especially if you don't have these farmers in groups. Probably if you have them in groups, then you'll be able to do option 2 of Global Gap that will help you. But that cost is quite expensive. And the lady from Kefis has said, of course, yes, there are no more channel of money from Treasury, so they have to charge. But you can imagine a phytosanitary certificate, what she called the passport, which you cannot export out of any country without it, going from 1,500 shillings to 12,000 shillings per phytosanitary certificate. Isn't that punishing a little bit? It's quite expensive, but that is what probably we have to do. And this is only one charge. You have other charges. You have $10 per UCR from Kentrade. There are a number of costs that go into it. So those are some of the barriers that prevent us moving to. I've talked about the Suez Canal closed, and therefore we cannot take our produce through that. But we have that option down Tanzania, Zimbabwe, and down to South Africa. Then from South Africa, Maersk will be able to take it from there around to West Africa. That takes you about 26, 27 days, which is far much better than going from Salala, from Mombasa, Salala, Durban, West South Africa, all that. That takes you about another 40, 45 days, which is a great loss to the avocado people. So we have an opportunity in EPA. Despite all these challenges, we have an opportunity. We get our farmers organized, put them in groups, have them registered, get somebody to do the spraying for them, because you don't want each and every farmer. Because when you go to spraying, then that Global Gap will require you to have protective equipment. So each and every farmer buying those protective equipment, and you only spray your avocados once or twice. So why don't somebody who has better knowledge be able to come, 1, identify the pest, 2, identify the right pesticide, 3, apply it the right way, and 4, apply it at the right time, so that you are able to beat the MRLs. And that way, you'll be able to get to the EU, whether Suez Canal is opened or not. I beg to rest my case.
Thank you very much, Mr. Waguro, but you still did not explain to us why our ladies use avocado. But when you showed us some oil, I was able to explain. Now we have Sharon. Was that your name? Yes, get your 7 minutes of fame.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Smile a bit. I know there was too much of all the information that you're getting. My name is Sharon Wanjiko. I'm the Secretary of Avocado Association of Aggregators Association of Kenya, whereby we have a membership of 1,000 aggregators across the country, and hoping to also have more members. We're still recruiting more members as we speak. And these aggregators, let me divide an avocado aggregator. An avocado aggregator works directly with the small-scale farmers, purchasing their fruits, creating a market for those fruits, and enabling them to tap onto the opportunities of selling their fruits on a timely basis. Our avocado, as everyone has mentioned, it's comprised of 70% of these small-scale farmers. So aggregators are the people that deal directly with the small-scale farmers. And to just point out kidogo to trademark, I would like to maybe just give an opinion to your approach dealing with this large-scale farmers and exporters, maybe because avocado, as I've mentioned and everyone else have mentioned who is in avocado, the produce comes from the young and small-scale farmers. Maybe you can take an approach of doing it towards the small-scale farmers, because with that, the outcome and whatever results you want to achieve can be achievable easily. Well, today, sababu avocado imekuwa represented so much, let me represent the young people. As a young person in the avocado aggregators, as Mr. Filippo and Mr. Mandu were speaking and giving us these numbers, these statistics, my question was, these numbers are big, but where are the youths in this? Where are the youths in this? I came with some few youths, fellow youths in agriculture. Allow me to share my 7 minutes of fame with them, just by introducing them. We have Onesmus. He's the CEO of Avocado Africa Solutions. Just say hi to people. And then, whatever Mr. Joseph was saying, he's an agronomist. He does the certification. He's a service provider in the certification of GAP. He's a global GAP and everything. If there's one person who can work with the way you are saying we organize farmers into groups, he is doing it. He's doing the service of providing the global GAP to these farmers and certifying their farm to be compliant with the GAP. We have Waridi. She had introduced herself. She's from there, Lamu. She's doing bamboo farming. We have Lamek. Say hi to people. He's into seedlings, and also he has an AI. Let me go through it. He has an AI kind of thing. It's called Farm Master. He's about to launch it in 2025. It's an agronomic AI WhatsApp bot that answers farmers by chatting with them on WhatsApp. Like it's an agronomist at hand. So we have capable youths amongst us. We have Eugene. It's just a mwingine ametoka. Kuna wengine wawili wametoka. We have Eugene. He's from Nyandarua, the county that everyone was just concerned about. He's doing poultry and potatoes, and the potatoes that everyone was mentioning. I'm a leader, so as leader, you are told to empower your people and you move with your people, so that I had to share my fame with them. In Kenya, we have Daina. She's in French beans. She's doing French beans huko Machakos, na pia anafanya avocado. So you can see we have youths in agriculture, and very passionate and capable youths in agriculture. So my query is, Kenya, we have 70% youth population. And amongst these 70%, 60% of them are unemployed. But we have big numbers, big mathematics and big statistics being mentioned here. And yet, there's unemployment in Kenya amongst the youth. So what do we do about this? What do we do about this? First of all, the perception of agriculture. How do we get youth to embrace agriculture? How does the government, how does the BMOs, how does the NGOs, the research, research, like Mashariki Research Policy Center, come about to support the young people to embrace agriculture. I will mention it, but as I came, our moderator told us not to mention about the challenges, but the opportunities. Yes, I see the opportunities. But for us as a young people, I believe we are a bit challenged. And we are challenged how? Amongst the youths that I've mentioned, before I mentioned the EPA to you, did you know about EPA, the existing of EPA? I know Onesmus you could know, but hao wengine mnaweza kuwa mlikuwa mnajua kuhusu EPA. Someone, did you? Did you? No. So there is a lot of outreach that needs to be done, a lot of branding. Young people are in the digital space. What's being done on the digital space for these young people to tap into these opportunities? Higher. As it has been mentioned again, and I've mentioned again here, we are not getting the information. How do we get it? What are the repercussions of us not getting this information? Opportunities are passing us through, and yet we have capable, very willing young people to indulge in agriculture and tap into the opportunities that are being presented here. Again, so we need to do a lot of capacity building, a lot of outreach. Another challenge that we go through is the things that we see in this country, policies. There's something we say, there is nothing for us without us. So you find, like I've mentioned, tumeona tu hapa an illustration. Most of them did not know about EPA. Where was the representation of the young people in the formulation of EPA? Probably there was, but there is a lot that needs to be done. So to encourage young farmers and young people to indulge in agriculture, we need to ensure that the policies that are being implemented are favorable to the young people in terms of sex. Sorry. There's a place I went and I said, making agriculture sexy, that's why I think that word is in my head. But anyway, I apologize for that. How do we get the young people to indulge in agriculture? The word I wanted to say is taxes. In terms of tax incentives, in terms of if it's a company owned by the young people, what is it done so that you can encourage this company that involves the young people in indulging and embracing all the things that revolves agriculture? What is it being done to that company so that it encourages even more young people to indulge in it? EU, what you can do for us as well, in terms of financing, you can provide a financing incubation for us that might help us and might facilitate us in the indulgence of agriculture. There was the issue of standards, and that is pests and diseases. How do we do this? We need to do an outreach. My take home today is an outreach. Outreach needs to be done. And just as Mr. Joseph had mentioned it, if we start providing solution right from the grassroots, then even the work of KEFIS will be so easy that they're so assured that that our products are fully compliant with the EU standards that need to be done. Let me get to that, and thank you so much for your time. So.
I did not want to stop the youth in the middle. That's why I gave you all the time. And you can see, no, you cannot go. You cannot go on. We shall have you during the question and answer session. And the good thing is, even the language he used was for the youngsters. You can see the language he is using, very Americanized. So what I want to do is, instead of having a question and answer session, I will call the private sector so that you can compare the private sector, and you can compare the private sector and the agricultural sector. And then after that, we can go to the panelists. And we have three gentlemen representing us here in the private sector panel. Thank you very much, Sharon Wanjiku. The first one is Abel Kamau, who is a trade policy manager, Kenya Association of Manufacturers. The next person we have here is, I was told Agatha Thuo is not coming, but we have Chris Shimba, who is representing her. And finally, we have Mr. Paul Gige, Head of Partnerships, Food and Agricultural Department, the Equity Bank. You can see we even brought the financiers here to give us a perspective on these issues. Then we have somebody from Agricultural Sector Network, KEPSA, private sector again, and Kenya Association of Manufacturers. So they can respond to some of the issues raised at the beginning, issues raised by agricultural panel. So we have a very enriched engagement. So I will be a bit different. Abel Kamau, where are you? Please come. I will deliberately not introduce you. And then you tell us why I'm not introducing you. Then you introduce yourself. And the same happens to Chris Shimba, 30 seconds of introduction, then Paul Gige. Your 7 minutes of fame.
Thank you, Professor Iraki, and good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, so it's quite a privilege maybe also to have this session with Prof, as noted by Mr. Mandu earlier on. He's been reading about him from the papers, but maybe also some of us were also quite fortunate to pass through his hands during school. So my name, I'm Abel Kamau. I'm the Trade and Policy Manager from the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. I'll take us through a topic on harnessing green technology and innovation. So this is a specific component which I was requested to talk around. I'll also strongly link it up with the Kenya EU EPA and technically how the agriculture sector can relate into these. So maybe just as an introduction, the Kenya Association of Manufacturers is a business membership organization purely representing the players in the value addition industries. So technically people who or entities that take one input and convert it into another output through a value addition process. Currently, we are at 65 years old. I think I see maybe some faces that might be about 65 years old. But I think majority of the participants here are slightly below the 65-year-old threshold, having started in 1959. And our main work is to promote and to advance a pro-industry business environment that ensures that the manufacturing sector is able to thrive in it. This is over and above providing technical support to the manufacturers across the different value chains. So maybe specifically on how we operate, we currently have about 1,300 members who cut across different sectors. Currently, we do have 14 sectors of them. 13 of them are into value addition, so meaning that they are actual manufacturers. We do have a 14th sector, which is the service and consultancy sector, which merely provides services that are consumed by the manufacturing sector. Under the 14 sectors, we do have 53 subsectors under them. This is to further provide customized services to these manufacturers. Specifically for the players in agriculture sector, there's a huge interface with the food and beverage sector and also the agro-processing sector. Currently, KM is leading a joint effort where we do have the Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry, the EU delegation represented and led by Mr. Filippo in it, KEFIS, we do have KEPSA, we have Chamber, we have the Avocado societies. We do have and organizations representing the same. We have FPIC and Kenya Flower Council, plus other BMOs, including ASNET. And the work around these has been to create awareness about the Kenya EU EPAs and ensure that we are able to optimize the proceeds of the Kenya EU EPAs. So about 24 years ago, we did have a similar declaration in form of market access to the US and AGOA. But sadly, 24 years later, we are still talking about optimizing the opportunities that are presented by AGOA. And for that reason, we didn't want to talk about these 25 years to come. So as noted by Mr. Mandu later on, when he was doing his opening remarks, there's a gradual phase down of imports from the EU over a period of 25 years. I remember what was circulating online after the 1st of July 2024, when we did have this agreement being ratified and it came into force. Memes were circulating that everybody will be driving a Mercedes-Benz imported from Germany, duty-free. Everybody will be owning those high-end machinery and state-of-the-art vehicles imported from the EU duty-free. But that is not possible. It would be done after a period of 25 years' time. And just on that note, it would be prudent that before the 25-year period is over, we are also able to ensure that we have built the muscle, the capacity of the local producers, the capacity of the local agriculture sector, and the capacity of the manufacturing sector to be able to compete with the manufacturing sector that's coming from the EU. Over and above maybe the sectors, we also provide services through our regional offices. Currently, over and above the centralized office in Westlands, we do have 7 regional offices. And maybe this answers part of the question which was raised earlier by Brigadier Wambugu on Nyandarua. So our selection of the counties where we did these sensitization forums was more of a clustered approach. We realized that we couldn't and we didn't have the resources to go to the 47 counties, but if we were able to cluster the counties that were closer to each other and where we had significant activity of exporters and manufacturers, we would be able to reach to bulk of maybe people who would be potential beneficiaries of these. And for that reason, Nyandarua was covered under the Nakuru Forum, which covered the larger Lower Rift. And interesting also is that over and above the traditional products that we know from come from Nyandarua, the typical cabbages and the typical warus. I think from the youth representative earlier on, she could have talked about the cash crop of Nyandarua. There was that common song, I think, during this year. Cash crop ya Nyandarua ni? Mawaru. So over and above that cash crop, we saw companies coming from Nyandarua advancing also into potato starch. So potato starch is one of the heavily imported inputs in the African continent and also in Europe. So we are finding companies going into that, and technically where you would use your potato starch and also by extension the corn starch, maybe is when you're taking your drugs. So the filler material is usually a starch-based material. When you're enjoying your maybe a cold white cup, your cold Tusker, there's a huge component of potato starch in it. When you're enjoying your khaki trouser, your khaki pants, what is making it stiff is starch, and a myriad of other uses. And that is a product which is already being developed in one of the counties where Brigadier is represented. So maybe hopefully when you're doing a similar forum next year, he'll be talking about the new cash crop from Nyandarua. And just around this, we do have, we've so far done 6 awareness creations around EPAs. And we have 2 pending. There'll be one in Nairobi, which will be on the 16th of January 2025, and it will be at Ole Sereni. So this is an open invite to all. We'll be sharing the larger invite through Grace, and hoping to see many of us there. So maybe this is just talking about the membership distribution and where they are in the different sectors. But our current ambition and purpose right now is creating prosperity for the nation through sustainable industrialization, just ensuring that we have that shared value, that shared prosperity across the country. And this is much of our work in around clustering and ensuring that we have customized services both for the disadvantaged populations within the society, including the youth and women, and also to the value chains that were previously not exploited is part of these. Relating this to the Kenya-EU EPAs, currently KM is working on a business development plan that has prioritized 4 main pillars. And these pillars are geared up towards ensuring that we are able to contribute to grow the contribution of the manufacturing sector to the GDP from the current 7.6% to 20% by 2030. So we do call it the 20 by 30 vision. And maybe just to note around this is that the contribution of the manufacturing sector to the GDP has been declining over the years. Because of many reasons, maybe some of which Mashariki Policy Center will maybe enable us to unravel around. But part of this has been because we have other sectors that have been growing bigger than the manufacturing sector. Look at maybe, for instance, the tourism sector. Look at the heavily funded infrastructure projects, which were not able to create a critical link with local content. So meaning that we are able to create big infrastructure projects, but we're not having the private sector from the manufacturing sector driving these infrastructure projects. So within the manufacturing 20 by 30, we are looking at achieving these through 4 main pillars: global competitiveness, ensuring that a producer of avocados, for instance, in Kenya, is able to do it competitively as a producer of the same, for instance, in South America, ensuring that the Kenyan manufacturer is able to compete with a Bangladeshi textile manufacturer in a market in Germany or in Italy. So there are a myriad of factors that we are looking at that, including competitiveness issues around inbound, in-factory and outbound logistic issues. We have a second pillar, which is on SME development. This is to ensure that we're able to grow the current MSMEs to be able to be formalized enterprises, and these enterprises to be able to leverage on the opportunities that exist with the bigger enterprises. Then we do have a third pillar, which is agriculture for industry. This is geared up towards ensuring that we are able to create a critical link between industrialization and the agriculture sector. So if you look at much of what we have within the manufacturing sector, not just in Kenya, but around the region, much of it is agro-based. So look at, for instance, the food and beverage sector, the juices that we enjoy, they have a backward integration with farmers around. Then the last pillar is export-led industrialization, ensuring that we are not just catering for the 50 million population in Kenya, but we are looking over and above that. If you look at EPA plus the other FTAs that we have, Kenya does have a preferential market access to about 50% of the world GDP. But sadly, we are not being able to optimize these because of several other factors. So maybe quickly transitioning to the components on green technology and innovation. From the manufacturer's side, we are looking at green technology from the perspectives of clean technology. This is from the perspective of energy, ensuring that we are able to use energy, clean energy, for our production purposes. And secondly, we are able to also to save energy. So the issues of energy wastages are addressed around these. Key to note around this is that about 90% of the energy bank that we are using in Kenya is already green. So for the Ministry of Industry, for the State Department for Trade, if you are branding Kenya as an ideal source of products for the world, we already do have 90% green energy service in our industries. Then we are looking at materials, ensuring that we have low energy embedded materials getting into our factories, ensuring that we have more cleaner materials getting into it, more sustainable materials. And this ensures that we are able to recover much of what maybe goes into the manufacturing process when it comes to recycling. Then we are looking at processes. What is the process of manufacturing? Some years back, there was that big shift of from chromium-based tanning to alternative ways of tanning. This was specifically for the leather industry. And largely it was also driven by the European market, so specifically the Italian market. And as such, if you're looking at clean production for the manufacturing sector, you're also looking at the processes under which this is also happening. Then also, lastly, other utilities such as water. So it is being said that the next global resource wars, especially maybe in this part of the world, will be centralized around water. And currently we are seeing that the component of water, specifically in the unit cost of production, is increasingly being high. And for that reason, it's one of the focus areas in clean production. Secondly, we are looking at the components of circular economy. So how do we ensure that we have recycling and reuse being part of it? How do we ensure that we are able to optimize the economic use of the materials that we have within our production systems towards the economic optimization of the same? And this leads to the circular economy. Right now, we are seeing so many of producer responsibility organizations just to ensure that there is that outreach between the manufacturing sector and the consumers to be able to have an interface with the consumption on the other end. And if you look at, for instance, the due diligence, you look at the Green Deal in the Kenya EU EPAs, it's largely centralized around these. And these are some of the major components that also maybe exporters to the EU should be looking at. So maybe what is CAM doing around this? For the past 21 years, we've been running the Center for Energy Efficiency and Conservation. This is a partnership between Kenya Association of Manufacturers and the Ministry of Energy, plus other stakeholders of mutual interest to us. About 5 years back, we also created the Center for Green Growth and Climate Change. This is to ensure that we have that gradual decarbonization of the manufacturing sector and the private sector. We have run some financing programs before, key around it being SUNREF, the sustainable use of natural resources and energy financing. Because the challenges back then is that, for instance, if you look at 10 years back and you went to Equity Bank requesting for a green financing, they didn't have such a product line within their product lines. But through this SUNREF program, we were able to work with several subsidiary banks within the country, with strong support from the Africa Development Bank and also from the French Development Bank. And we're able to create such products and enabled banks to be able to do an assessment specifically when it comes to green financing. We're also running a program with the Netherlands, with the Dutch. It's called Sustainability for Competitiveness, just ensuring that we are able to tap into sustainable trade. And these are all part of export readiness for manufacturers and for producers that wish to tap into the EU market. Lastly, we do have a responsible care program. This is for the efficient handling of chemicals. So chemicals is a major problem, especially for the production, both in manufacturing and also in agriculture. And responsible care is one of the programs that also players within the agriculture sector can really look at, especially maybe riding on the presentation by Faith later earlier on that talked about the effects of climate. So maybe just to note, and this is linking up with the second bit of the question, which was on bridging the finance gap. So maybe as I wrap around this, the key deal around this is innovation, this continuous innovation to ensure that we have these homegrown solutions to some of these interventions. We would be shocked that some of the energy management softwares, smart metering systems have all been homegrown because of this continuous research and development that we've had within the sector. Looking at maybe some of the achievements and linking up with the financing bit of it, a financier, maybe specifically allow me to use Equity Bank, would only be interested in a project when it's bankable. And upon realization that we need to have bankable projects, just allow me just one more minute. Upon realization that we do need to have bankable products, part of what we've been doing is conducting energy audits. So far we've been able to do about 1,900 energy audits to various producers and manufacturers within the country. And also still around it, we also realized that we didn't have that technical capacity to be able to support our members and our manufacturers to be able to tap into these. And for such reason, we developed various certification programs to ensure that we do have a human resource to be able to provide these solutions to industry. And for that reason, we've been able to train over 2,000 industry professionals so far. With the need to ensure that we do have water efficiency. We've done over 31 water and wastewater audits. We do have the annual Energy Management Awards, which I think part of us have been able to participate in, normally done at Safari Park, the same venue, at the big ballroom, where we have 20 editions so far. So if we quantify maybe, and this is maybe is the good news to the banks and maybe how we can be able to use data to be able to attract this green financing, we quantify the savings and maybe the bankability of what we've been able to do so far. We've been able to save about 190,000 gigawatts of energy saved. This is combined with about 241 megawatt hours of electrical and thermal energy saved, and about 430 million, which is saved from these interventions annually. If you look at the component on renewable energy and what this has been as an intervention to the industry, we are able to generate about 113.6 megawatts of energy, megawatt hours of energy per year. So simply put, if you look at the savings that we are getting from these, and you combine your typical Kindaruma Dam and Masinga Dam, this is the kind of savings that you're getting. So technically, you can be able to shut off Kindaruma and Masinga Dam and look at those savings because the output is the same. So maybe bridging the finance gap and maybe where we need to look at, we need to ensure that we do have this blend of traditional financing, which is the debt and equity, and the new age conventional financing. Strongly related, maybe for instance, to the presentation made by the colleague representing youth. One of the major challenges that we have for manufacturers, for MSMEs, is that they don't have the brick and mortar to provide to Paul to be able to provide as a collateral for their financing. And for that reason, you find that most of the businesses are stuck at the ideation stage, unable to attract the necessary financing to be able to do that. But through conventional financing systems that for instance, allow for catalytic financing, part of which Trademark has been providing and providing channels for that, can be a major solution towards these. This is over and above being able to tap into climate funds. We are told that there is so much money circulating around the world on climate, but sadly the private sector is not being able to tap into these. And how could we be able to use data to do to have good reporting to be able to tap into these climate funds, including also grants and joint ventures. One of the interesting things around joint ventures right now is that you're finding that most of the renewable energy projects are developed under the build, operate, own models. So technically, the manufacturer or the practitioner does not own the panels that sit on their rooftops, but they are having a financing model that enables them to get substantially lower lower cost of supply of energy, but not having to invest in the capex around it. Key gaps to address includes information asymmetry, ensuring that information which is available on this funding all over the world, we are able to disseminate it to the people who matter, ensuring that that funding is going to the legitimate businesses. Then developing localized financing solutions and capacity. For instance, one experience that we had when we had the dollar rise is that we had companies that had been able to attract financing in terms of forex. Maybe it was euro-based or dollar-based financing. They were really hit hard with an escalation of debt. So how could we be able to create localized financing solutions for that. And a huge opportunity lies for our financial institutions. Then lastly, the cost of financing in this part of the country, in this part of the world, is really substantially high. If you look at a typical manufacturer in Bangladesh and a typical manufacturer in Kenya wishing to compete in the same EU market, and you look at their cost of financing, just by the open bid system which buyers use, you are knocked off because of that high cost. So how could we progressively ensure that we have cost-efficient and appropriate financing for the manufacturing and productive sectors? So allow me to end here after my 7 minutes, I believe, Prof.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamau. I think what I should have done is, since he was my student, I would have told him that if he doesn't keep time, I'll disclose the grade that I gave him. I'm sure he would have kept time. But Kamau is a trade and policy specialist with over 10 years of experience, and he says that he aspires to provide impactful and sustainable solutions to economic and social development to the world. And I think he has tried to do that. So if you have any question for him, you do that during the plenary. But now we have Chris Ochieng. Where are you? Yes, you are representing Agatha too. And Chris Shiba Ochieng is an accomplished public policy and advocacy expert with over 13 years experience of driving impactful initiatives across public, private, and development sectors. And he says he tells us he has worked for Gatsby Kenya, Kenya Markets Trust, KEPSA, and USU Africa, just across here. And finally, he says he holds a master's degree in economics from the University of Nairobi, and he is pursuing further studies. Chris, you have 7 minutes of him. And lastly, we have Paul Ogige, who has been working with Equity Bank for 10 years. Where are you? Very close to us. So get your 7 minutes of him.
So good evening, and thank you for inviting ASNET to be part of this presentation. Prof, it is good to see you again. I know we have met severally, but you might have forgotten me in the other life when I worked for Gatsby Africa. Yeah, so now I work for ASNET under policy and research, and I'm very excited to represent my CEO, who up to this afternoon had planned to be here. But unfortunately, there is a celebration of KEPSA at 20, where the president is expected to attend, and she was asked to be there in good time so that they can be able to finalize a few other activities before the meeting officially starts. So it's because of that I am here, and I think I am up to the task. So basically, allow me also to just take a moment to give you a brief about ASNET. So I know many of us, and thank you, my predecessor, because you've talked about ASNET. Actually, when we talk about ASNET, ASNET was launched in 2020, very young, but also very old, because ASNET is actually the private sector board of agriculture. So KEPSA had a number of sector boards, and one of the sector boards under KEPSA is Agriculture Sector Board. So it's the Agriculture Sector Board that actually graduated to be ASNET, what it is today, because of the issues that were there before. And it was actually formed or launched officially here in 2020. And today, the major effort, or what we are trying to do, or at the time when it was formed, because there were so many issues around agriculture, so there were so many people that were also going to see policymakers, the president, the cabinet secretaries, and it was a bit disjointed. And so there was need to really be able to harmonize the sector-focused efforts, and also be able to look at the competitiveness of growth of agriculture. But importantly is that there are a number of bodies that actually formed ASNET, and part of them include KEPSA, include Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, include CAM, among many others. And how is our membership? Our membership is very open, and it's open to business associations, farmers cooperatives, and also financial institutions, NGOs, and even research institutes. So basically, we are privileged to enjoy a wide scope of membership, and quite a number of those that have gone before me, Avocado and all the presenters there are our members, and so they have talked about ASNET, but in a different forum. So I have a presentation where I want to specifically be able to address the topic that we were asked to do, and that is on enhancing agricultural value chains and just looking at the policy insights. And I have also delivered to look at what are some of the practical skills. But you will allow me not to dwell so much on what others have talked about, and I am a respecter of time. So I will not really want Prof to stand and let me note that time is gone. So if I will not be able to present part of what I prepared for, I know we have this presentation and we can be able to share it, and I'm also be around. You can be able to ask me even questions beyond this presentation. So I will not talk about all this, but it is important that we know that part of what we do is agriculture value chain development, trade and investment facilitation, policy, legal and regulatory frameworks, and also coordination of the private sector actors who are in agriculture. And basically, we focus on inclusivity. And I want to say that even the youth representatives who are there, in our work, we really think about how do we incorporate the youths, women, and people with disability, or what we will call the vulnerable in the society. And we do a number of also capacity building. Even today, part of the reason why it was not possible for the CEO to be here is because we are also training our BMOs at Jacaranda Hotel on policy influencing and how they can engage government when they are engaging on matters policy. And so I will move straight now to what I will want to look at in this topic. So I have passed a number of things. But if you look at what we were asked, when we talk about agricultural value chain, we look at it right from the point where we are starting from the farm to the fork. So we are looking at where we start the production, we go through processing, we look at the storage, and then we end up in marketing, including the distribution. And for us, when we talk about the agriculture value chain, some of the key aspects, or what we are looking at and we are very focused about, is to think about it in terms of efficiency. What kind of efficiency can it bring? I know sometimes, when we talk about the value chain, some people want to shorten it, some people want to expand it, but most importantly, whether we want to shorten it, we want to remove some of the players within the value chain, what really we think about is to think about how can we be able to enhance, efficiency in terms of even reducing the post-harvest losses, which are quite high when you look at Kenya and the statistics that is there, about 30 to 40%. And then we also look at competitiveness. We realize that for sure we are competing within the globe. So you cannot assume that Kenya is secluded. And what we are talking about here, the EPA and the EU, all this means trade beyond our borders. And so we cannot say that as we are going to try and promote the value chain, we want to think about, Kenya as our own country. But we know that there are many other countries that are also competing with us. So what is important is, as we compete, can we be able to be competitive? Can we be able to keep the standards that are set? Because it is only through that we can be able to achieve what is desirable. But also, it is important for us to note that as much as we are in this kind of environment, but agriculture in Kenya is purely smallholders. So about 80% of all our Kenyan farmers are small-scale producers. And I don't want to really talk about what are some of the profile of those people. So when you are anything that we are doing, we must be able to think about how are these people going to benefit. But if you look at the EU EPA, what we have achieved within the shortest time, just from 2018, and I know those who have talked before me have mentioned about 1st July and what came up this year. It is important for us to know that actually EU, we cannot treat EU just like any other, because this is our second largest trading partner, and there is a market that it presents. And I think when I came in, I was able to listen to Filippo, or if I forget the name, talking about the same figures, about the 3 billion that we are talking about in terms of 2023, the trade. And of course, if you look at what EU accounts for, 40% of all the Kenya's horticultural exports. And so then it means that compliance with the EU standards is not something that we are just going to take for granted. Because again, if you also try and do some projections, then it's pointing to us that we can actually increase what we are going to get out of that collaboration, about 200 million per year. And that is something that is amazing. Now, allow me also just to mention that some of the policy reflections about value chain enhancement are also what we have also talked about. But it is important for us to note that some of the key areas, if you listen to everybody that was talking about, is about investing on infrastructure. And the infrastructure that we are looking at here include areas around value chain systems so that we can be able to reduce spoilage. About 50% of horticultural losses are experienced through that. And some of the recommendations in our own thinking is to be able to embrace PPPs to develop some of the rural cold chain facilities. I know, again, where we are, when we talk about PPPs, people are thinking about Adani and all those challenges. But that is not what we are talking about. There is a PPP Act which clearly stipulates how that can be done. Maybe we just need to look at it in terms of what changes or what reviews can we make so that it is able to serve and to make our work more easier. The other area that also has also been talked about is about organizing farmers. If you look at our farmers, again, we are talking about small-scale farmers, having very small acres, doing it in very small quantities. So what if now we are able to bring in our farmers and have a more of a collective, a collective action via cooperatives. So the stories around aggregations, that is something that we need to think about it. And as we think about it, we must be able to find out what are some of the key policy issues around that can be able to work out very well for us. And I was just looking at what is happening now in Makueni. There is a very good example about the Mango Farmers Cooperative in Makueni that has boosted exports by about 40%. That is something that we can be able to learn on how small-scale farmers can be able to be put together through aggregation and cooperatives. Then the other thing that has also been mentioned, and we'll always see about it, is about access to finance. And I think Mwangi, you've mentioned it so well about, now financial institutions are now offering access to finance. But it is not yet enough, because if you also look at it, there are a number of other challenges around who accesses that finance, what are the collateral systems that are available. But I was looking at it in terms of the warehouse receipt system, which is actually now existing. What if we are able to expand that and look at the modalities through which we can be able also to create an opportunity for more credit access. And the area around technology, I heard there is somebody who is doing something around avocado technology solutions. When we talk about technology, the challenges that we have is how do we deal with access to information? How do we deal with, information asymmetries that exist around that? But digital platforms for market access and compliance are something that we can be able to think about. And I was just, in my kind of research, I found there is something around FarmForce, that software that has actually enabled about 20% increase in the Kirinyaga exports around avocado. Maybe we can be able to discuss that. And of course, the key other aspects about how do we streamline regulatory processes. And that's about digitalizing some of the certification process. Faith, this is something that we can be able to work out, and especially on the standards that are there. And then finally, so that I don't talk about all this, because I think my predecessors talked about some of the value chain challenges and opportunities. I don't want to talk about this, but you can have this. But I want just to talk about now the final part about what are the opportunities for policy enhancement. And when we look at these opportunities, we are looking at very key aspects. For example, if we talk about farmers and exporters, I know for government, one of the challenges that government is looking at is thinking about the revenues. But some aspects around tax, if you introduce tax relief to support infrastructure development, especially around cold chains, that will really be able to support, address issues around post-harvest losses. But also we can also provide subsidies, which I've just looked at the quick report that has come out, the agriculture survey. And the government is also very proud about the subsidies that they are provided for farmers that has led agriculture to grow. And those subsidies can actually assist farmers and exporters in meeting some of the compliance requirements. Capacity development, where we are delivering very specialized, not just training, but very specialized training around SPS standards, and also to ensure that there is compliance with the EU regulations, because quite a number of people are not even familiar with this. They are not aware of what needs to be done. So if we can be able to provide some of those specialized training for that, and then foster partnerships with EU for technical support, that will be something that is amazing. I've talked about PPPs, and I think it's about just also my colleague from CAM has mentioned issues around joint ventures in terms of logistics and infrastructure, looking at the transport networks and processing of plants. And then finally, we need to think about the youth engagement. The youth engagement is not just about including them, but also trying to see, because some of the challenges they have is around financing. So how do we offer financial and technological support to empower the young farmers who are youths and who may not be able to have, the privilege and the opportunity, as you called it. It is not very bad, because in some other forums, that is what they accept, but they don't like, the traditional kind of farming. But now modernize it, make it appealing, make it interesting to the youths. And then finally, those of us who are in research, including Mashariki, and it is not just enough, Prof, to do research, but I think it is important for us, beyond allocating research for research funds to institutions like CALRO, and all these government institutions. It is important for us to see how do we make sure that the funds that are allocated are actually going into innovations. We can be able to now look at what are some of the innovative technologies that can be able to enhance productivity and compliance, but more particularly with the EU standards. So allow me to stop there, and thank you very much for giving us opportunity to be here today.
Chris, I love your passion, and I'm going to report to Mrs. Agatha Thuo about your performance. I don't know whether you have a promotion awaiting next year, or at the end of this year. I will try and intervene. We have two more presenters. Please be patient. I'm finding it very hard to stop these speakers because they have very good ideas. And I'm sure if you extract some of them, it will make a difference to your economic situation next year. So be patient and bear with me. You can see the atmosphere is very good, the weather is very good, the partnership is very good. I want to have Mr. Paul Gige make a presentation. Then we have noted Professor Bitange demo is online, so he will be the last one. Then we are going to have a very short question and answer session, and then we conclude with our ambassador from the US. Paul Gige works with Equity Bank. The most memorable thing I remember about Equity Bank is, are you a member? I hope you're still asking that question. He is dedicated to supporting small-scale holder farmers by connecting them with key players in the food systems and helping them access financial services from mainstream financial institutions. I guess Equity is one of them. In addition, Paul holds a first-class honors degree in food science and technology from Egerton University. You tell us how you moved from food to banking. I would be very happy to know that. And he has also pursued a master's degree in agriculture and food economics from Catholic University in Italy. Get your 7 minutes of fame.
Thank you, Prof. And good afternoon, everyone. All protocols observed. I think we have had information overload today, but an overload in good sense, because the things that are being discussed here today are quite interesting. From where I was sitting, I didn't see anyone dozing. I hope you'll not doze on me, but I'll try and make it as brief as possible and not to repeat things that have already been said. So as a way of introduction, Equity Bank started over 35 years ago, and we started as a very small bank. a building society for that matter. And since then, we have grown. We have grown to be now in 6 countries. And our very first customers when we started, our customers were farmers. They were the dairy, the tea, and the coffee farmers. And to date, we've not forgotten where we've started. In fact, in the bank, we have a dedicated department called Food and Agriculture, where I sit, and where we support the farmers today. So throughout my presentation, you'll notice we are doing more than just banking. We say we exist to transform lives and livelihoods. What drives us is the socio-economic transformation. And indeed, what we've learned today about EPA indeed will help us move the pin to the next level. So just Equity Bank at a glance, the bank has several subsidiaries. The bank is just one of them. The other subsidiary is Equity Group Foundation. We also have a subsidiary in insurance, a subsidiary in the technology arm, and a subsidiary in the investment arm. What most of us know is the banking subsidiary, which I've mentioned we are in 6 countries. And this makes a lot of sense for EPA because of that close integration with EAC countries. So if we have members who are trading from either of these countries, then they can bank seamlessly with the bank, be it from South Sudan, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and DRC. And we also have a representative office in Ethiopia. To date, we have close to 20 million customers in these 6 countries. And the numbers there that we show, we are not showing them to brag on where we are, just to give you some confidence that in case of any financing need that you have, then the bank has that balance sheet to support whatever financing that you may require. Our asset base is of 1 trillion Kenya shillings. So from that kind of a balance sheet, then you can imagine the kind of support that the bank is able to offer. Equity Group Foundation is also another key subsidiary that from listening in this presentation, I thought the foundation really can have a very big contribution in implementation of EPA. I think most of us, when we hear of Equity Group Foundation, we only associate it with Wings to Fly. Wings to Fly sits only in one pillar of the foundation, that is the education and leadership development pillar. But we have several other pillars, including health. If you walk around nowadays, you are seeing Equity Afya clinics, and maybe it's a discussion on what can we do to our farmers in regard to their medical needs through our Equity Afya. We have an energy and environment pillar. I think the last 2 presenters have really spoken about this intervention. Filippo earlier on talked about afforestation and the policy around that for the coffee value chain. So energy and environment pillar could play a big role in EPA implementation. The bank has a target of planting about 35 million trees by the year 2030. And so far, we have already planted about 26 million trees. So that's an area that we can see how to partner. Our sister unit in the foundation, Food and Agriculture, where their main role is just to do capacity building. And throughout this presentation, I've heard the name capacity building, I don't know how many times. And the question is, how can we partner to see how we can do capacity building for the farmers and the SMEs? When we are saying we want to train them on these SPS standards, can we combine that with also, say, financial education literacy training or entrepreneurship education training or digital literacy? Because at the end of these trainings, we are telling the farmers, please don't use product X, use product Y, or maybe adopt this kind of technique for farming. And then the farmers always ask, I will want to adopt that, but maybe I don't have the finances. And that's where our financial education literacy can come in. The other 2 pillars are enterprise development and financial inclusion, as well as the social protection pillar. This is just an overview of our bank-wide strategy. We call it Africa Recovery and Resilience Plan. This is the Marshall Plan that the bank has adopted to achieve its targets. We envision ourselves to be the leading bank in Africa. By year 2030, we are targeting to get to 100 million customers, 5 million of whom will be borrowing from the bank. In that lower quadrant there, we see there are several pillars in this strategy. And the first pillar is actually food and agriculture. It's there by intention. The bank has identified this as a key pillar, which will help meet its target. And I was excited to sit here today and to see the many partners that we can work with. As we achieve our targets, we also help meet your needs as well. So out of the whole business that the bank will be doing, we are expecting that 30% of that bank, of that business will come from food and agriculture, which place our farmers and stakeholders in food and agriculture value chain at a very good position, knowing that you have a bank where your needs are well articulated at the highest level in the bank strategy. There is that commitment to support the sector. We had prepared an overview of the various solutions that we see most dim for stakeholders, but I don't know, time may not allow us to go into all of this. We had highlighted the account opening, cash management solution, loan products, because sometimes when we hear of solutions from the bank, I think that what comes in mind first is loans, and nothing else but loans. But over time, we have realized that some of the stakeholders need much more than loans. For example, maybe they want an account which does not have monthly charges, or an account that can easily receive remittances, say from abroad. They want cash management solution. I've received payments in my account. How do I seamlessly make payments, maybe across the region? Maybe they're looking for insurance solutions. They may not be banking with us, but they want, say, a marine insurance solution as they ship their products. Capacity building, as I said, is an area that we could really pursue, and maybe trademark this. It's an area that we'll be pursuing with you. We see what we can do together under BIP in this area of capacity building, intervention, clean energy and environment. And I don't want to repeat what CAM and ASNET has said, but that really is an add-on that the bank can bring on the table. And the last, treasury, forex exchange solution, and trade finance solutions are key products that we are offering for our stakeholders. Really, our approach is farm to fork. And if you look at the size of the bank, I think we sit in a very good place where we are able to serve all our customers. From the very small holder farmer, maybe having 10, 20 trees of avocado, to the largest exporter in this country. The bank is home to all, from pre-primary production, primary production, aggregation. I was happy to hear there is someone representing aggregators, processors, traders, and say exporters or for local market. So the bank has positioned itself in a way that we can support all these players along the value chain. We appreciate some other financial institutions have taken the route of specialization. You'll find them maybe at the tail end, supporting maybe the processors and the exporters, or some very small, maybe SACCOs who are only dealing with the farmers. But as a bank, we have tried to position ourselves and avail products that all stakeholders, right from pre-production to the final consumers, we have a relevant product to support them. And how we have managed to do this is, as a department, we have structured it in a way that we have sector specialists. We have sector specialists for each key sector in agriculture. I had my colleague here who had to step out for a meeting with a client. He is a sector specialist for horticulture. So for anything related to horticulture and you have a need, you want to discuss horticulture business, then you get a specialist who has been working in that industry who you can discuss with. We have a specialist in floriculture, if that's the line of business that you want to pursue. Tea and coffee, you already have a specialist who can guide. Livestock and dairy, there is a specialist driving that business. Cereals and grains and oilseeds, there is a specialist. Inputs, a specialist to support us drive that business. So with that segmentation of sector specialists, we believe we are in a good position to drive the business and offer customized solution to any player in the food and agriculture value chain. So in terms of the financing solution, if we could summarize them, I know we are pressed on time, but if I can just give a high-level overview, we have like two broad categories of our products, one being for large-scale and SMEs, and this mainly will be our commercial agriculture financing, where if it's a processor who wants to set up a plant, then there is a solution for such a client, and these are the clients who will come to borrow, say in hundreds of millions, a billion. The bank will be able to support them under that product. Asset financing for aggregators, if, for example, someone wants just to buy a pickup, to buy avocados and bring to the market, under asset financing, then we have a product. Then we have for our small-scale farmers, and largely we categorize them either those with remittance-backed products, for example, French beans, talk of dairy, talk of tea, coffee, we can support them. But we also understand there are some farmers who will produce, and they'll have to wait for, say, if they are in serious, wait until the end of the season so that they can be able to pay our loan. So any farmer who walks into the bank, or rather any stakeholder in food and agriculture who walks into the bank, they will find a suitable product to serve their need. One of the unique customization of our products is we don't expect to lend to a farmer today, and then at the end of the month we start asking them to pay our, because we understand that farmer will not manage. For some farmers, they'll have to wait for 3 months, 4 months for them to produce and sell. So we try and customize our products in such a way that it meets those income cycles from whatever activity they are doing. I mentioned insurance as another additional service which we are able to offer. Actually, Equity Bank recently just got a license to operate insurance services, and we also have the bank assurance model. So all these are products that we are able to offer. And specifically speaking to agri, we have both crop and livestock, as well as for our traders looking for things like marine or freight insurance, then the bank is able to support. We've joked for many years that our logo is a house, and we call it a one-stop shop. So once you enter here, more or less all your financial needs, then we should be able to support you. On the clean energy products, not to repeat what colleagues have said, but even going at a very granular level to the farmer level, we still have all these suites of products that we can support our farmers, be it in clean energy products, and that include, say, solar irrigation, biodigesters. That's a financing that we are able to offer our farmers. Water and sanitation. We find our farmers seeking simple loans like a loan to buy a water tank for harvesting water in case of the rain season. So the bank has a product to support such. And the list is endless, a partnership with various companies in these products, which we can support them. And just to summarize, I think Philip asked what really, and that question really took me a bit when he said he engaged donors, investors, and they asked him, what can we do? And he doesn't have an answer. Maybe recommendations from us, credit risk guarantee. And if you give anyone a microphone here, one of the pain points, they will say they are not able to access finance. Why? Because the bank, maybe when they are praising, they'll want to make sure that any money that they give out comes back. So if we have a partner who we can work with, say on a credit risk guarantee, to help our first-time borrowers, to help our smallholder farmers, to help our youth access financing, then that's an area that we can pursue. irrigation financing, and this credit risk guarantee we've done with EU for many years. We already have one in place, but this one is for serious farmers. And we are saying, can we replicate for the other value chains as well? Irrigation financing, this is something that we've done quite in a big scale in Mount Kenya region through support from KFW. And that's another area that maybe could be our recommendation to pursue, because if it's like horticulture, we've noted where there is irrigation, then these farmers are able to do much more. We've implemented a program with EIB on a matching grant financing, where the SMEs were getting 50% as a grant, and then the other 50% they were expected to raise it as their own contribution. If they are not able to raise the 50%, then they get it as a loan from the bank. So such models is something that could be a recommendation to pursue. The last one being a subsidy. We know the government has been implementing a subsidy program. As a bank, we have also been implementing one, thanks to funding from EU, called KSEP, Kenya Cereal Enhancement Program. But this has been in cereal value chain, where farmers are only contributing 10%, and the EU is providing the extra 90% as a grant, which we manage through an e-voucher system. So maybe this also could be a recommendation to pursue going forward. We see whether that subsidy kind of a model could be implemented in the identified value chains. The last one, as I mentioned, capacity building. And here we'll be pursuing BIP to see what we can do together. As they train on the standards, we complement that training with our financial education and entrepreneurship education training. I'll beg there in the interest of time and thank Mashariki for inviting us, and we really look forward to engaging more and more. Asante.
Dr. Kabage, if I was to cover what has been covered this afternoon in one of my courses, it would need me a whole semester. But we have been able to do this because we are focused on being productive. So in 3 hours, we have been able to do so much. So I want to conclude the presentations in style by having Professor Bitange Nemo, Kenya's ambassador to the Kingdom of Belgium, and a professor at the University of Nairobi, make his presentation. He was previously a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Information and Communication, and is a researcher in policy development, public administration, curriculum design, and many others. He is widely published in referred academic journals, and contributes to public. He's a leading public intellectual, as you have seen in the columns and the media commentaries. So we have Professor Ndemo. Then after that, I will advise you next. But we are almost there. Just be patient. Thank you. So we are setting up the Zoom for him. So as we set that, maybe we can have somebody raise one question, very important question, because you may not have time to ask questions. Who has a very burning question here? Oh, there's one guy at the back. If he comes on, then I'll look for the answer for you later on. So, but just ask the question.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eugene Gedhu. I am a small farmer from Nyandarua, Njoro, and Narok. Niku jaribu. My question goes to... He left. Okay. Now, Madam Goge, you are going to answer this for us, because you are the one who has been left. What is it in this, and which is the easiest way for us to engage the youth? Because I'm thinking in most of the products where we have youths where we engage youths, for example, the Youth Enterprise Development Fund, the maximum funding is 300,000. Somebody tell me what we can get for 300,000 as a farmer. Thank you.
I'll also help answer the question, but for now, let's listen to Professor Bitange Ndemo. Professor Ndemo, how are you?
Yes, I'm good.
No, I can see you. I can see you. Welcome aboard. I hope you're not freezing in Belgium. Get your 10 minutes of fame.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I would just say all protocols observed, because I don't know who is in the room. And thank you so much for allowing me to speak. We had gone to meet the other African ambassadors on issues around the EU and Africa, but I'm very impressed from what I've seen. Just 2 weeks ago, I met the EU ambassador to Kenya, and we said we need to promote the economic partnership agreement so that when we begin to work on this, people understand what needs to be done. I don't want to repeat a lot of what has been said. I just want to emphasize that effectively in this market. So as I said, a lot of issues around compliance would require technology, especially in the space of traceability. They want to trace anything from source to the consumer, which would require a lot of technology. And the issues I've seen so many of you have talked about sustainability, which is going to be very, very key. One of the areas they are looking at would be of interest to us is something they're developing called digital product passport, meaning that the passport would have all the information about the product that will be consumed on this part of the world. And we may even find it much, much more necessary in the local market. So we need now to step up these programs for awareness so that the farmers understand and move to that space. A number of speakers have talked about building value chain, which are very critical to small farmers, because small farmers cannot export directly. They are going to be dependent on those who can be able to aggregate and be able to meet the standards that are required by the EU. At macro level, the government is doing everything to make sure that we are able to meet the requirements that have been put, that EU has already mentioned to us. Earlier on, we talked about issues around deforestation, and these are some of the things that we need to make farmers, especially those who are near forests, to be able to understand, because EPAs, what they would help us, the benefits that we will get from the EPAs is market access. And that market access can actually go if we don't meet the compliance requirements that are put in place by the European Union. It is not just Africa that those requirements have been put, but it's for the entire world that deals with the EU, and we cannot afford to begin to slide back because we are doing everything that can be done from this end to make sure that everybody understands what is required so that we can make our products more competitive. Because if you are denied market access, then you are not able to take advantage of the free exports into the European Union. There is also a number of other issues that we would come back to explain in detail how it's going to work, how the exporters will do. At the moment, we are working with regulators like KEFIS, especially those areas that threaten exports to Europe. For example, issues around sanitary and phytosanitary problems that we usually have in warmer countries. We are trying to get, again, technology to help the farmers to compete. And at some point, I would urge that if we get a few of you to visit here and see what competitor countries do, for example, when we went to the port to see what, for example, New Zealand does. New Zealand has implemented a lot of what EU requires. And it's very easy for them, when they export their kiwis, to know whose kiwis did not meet the standards, and they are able to return that back, or they are disposed of here. Those technologies in what we call blockchain are going to be very, very, very critical, in the sense that even coffee, they are going to be able to trace to the farmer who picked that coffee, when they picked it, and when they shipped it, and when it arrived in this market. So this is just a beginning. What we are going through is a beginning. We are going to bring more requirements as they are required, and be able to create capacity that would be able to export to the European market. So I don't want to take a lot of time because I don't want to repeat what has been said, and that's the problem of speaking last. Everybody has spoken. I should be saying, Professor Iraqi said these other ones said that, but I would rather allow time for questions because much of the issues were covered by previous speakers. So thank you so much.
But Prof, you are very good you are used to citations. So nothing wrong with repeating what other people have said, but you paraphrase it.
Oh, they are not blessed.
It's very acceptable.
I cited you.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether there's somebody who has a single question for Prof online. Anybody who has a question for Professor before he goes? He will not be joining us for dinner in a few minutes. So the rest of the questions you can ask your colleagues during the dinner. Anybody who has a question for Prof? And then since nobody has a question for you, even if anybody has a question, the question will go through me. I will collect all the questions for you during the dinner, and I will forward them to you.
Then you send them to me, and I will respond.
Yes, thank you very much, and make sure you don't freeze in Europe. I know it's very cold.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana. So finally, we have Ambassador Gasheru coming online to give us our closing remarks. Ambassador Gasheru, let's have him come on. The young man, we have not forgotten your question. Hello, how are you?
I will withdraw this timely roundtable to a close. It is my privilege to deliver the closing remarks and vote of thanks on behalf of the Mashariki Research Policy Center. It has been an honor to share this platform with a diverse group of experts and practitioners. Today's discussions underscored the transformation potential of EPA in unlocking vast opportunities for the agricultural sector. We have explored the strategies of enhancing market access, fostering innovations, empowering youth, and strengthening value chains, all with a shared goal of driving sustainable inclusive growth. I must mention that a lot of work on this EPA came out for the great work that was done by trade negotiation teams in the U.S. Original FTA negotiation that actually provided a lot of work that came to the faster conclusion of the EPA. So a great head to a good team of our negotiators out there. Let me express my deepest gratitude to our esteemed speakers. Your insights and expertise provided perspective for navigating opportunities and challenges presented by the EPA. The rich insight you all have eloquently delivered heralds key lessons learning and potential to contribute to Kenya's agricultural transformation. You are participants from the government, intergovernment organization, the diplomatic corps, the private sector, academia, and civil society. Your active engagement has enriched today's conversation and demonstrated the power of collaboration in driving meaningful progress. As a takeaway message, I urge each of you to take the insight, ideas, and strategies shared here back to your organization, institutions, and communities. Let us turn this discussion into actionable items that will ensure Kenyan farmers, entrepreneurs, and agricultural stakeholders fully benefit from the opportunities provided by EPA. Finally, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to Mashariki Research Policy Center team, led by Brigadier Dr. Robert Kapange, for the exceptional coordinations and commitment in organizing this event. Your efforts have provided a platform for insightful dialogue and impactful engagement. MRPC is keen to expand this policy discussion from knowledgeable production perspective through research products for policy formulation. Let us carry forward this energy, determination, and spirit of collaboration that has defined today's roundtable. Together we can forge a future where Kenya's agricultural sector is not only vibrant and competitive, but also cornerstone of global trade and development. Thank you once again for your time, insights, and commitment. As we transition to the networking dinner, I encourage you to continue building partnership and collaboration initiative here today. Wishing everyone an enjoyable evening, safe travels, and happy holidays. Success in all your endeavors. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. It's very clear you are in the US from your closing remarks. Happy holidays. We can also say happy holidays to you. There is a gentleman who was mentioned here earlier in the day as a consultant on EPA. And he is sitting here. And I want him to sit where he is and say one word before we conclude.
Thank you very much. My name is Simon Ihiga. I am a trade consultant. And I just wanted to share with you that I am leading a process of preparing an EPA implementation strategy, which is actually what brought me here. This was a very interesting discussion. And we want to pick all these priorities that have been, talked about in this forum. It would be very important that we capture them, right? Especially, when we hear the youth and the need to capture their needs, I think it's quite important. But we want to be guided. We got a questionnaire that is focusing on the key elements that are actually elaborated in the EPA text. This is SPS, the TBT, this is about quality standards, customs and trade facilitation, and we have also been informed to look at structured commodity trade. This is about the warehouse receipt system, and there is a new digital trade platform that has been floated through the State Department of Trade, known as COMEX, which is going to be very, very useful in the process. Then there is issues of e-commerce, and lastly, sustainable trade development, where you have issues to do with gender rights, labor rights, environmental protection, climate change, all these things about deforestation. So it's quite important. If I can get all the list of the participants, then we can share that particular questionnaire. It's about the private sector organizations which are heavily represented in this forum. Luckily, KEM is here. It's in the process. KEPSA is in the process. The Chamber of Commerce is in the process. Also, FPIC. But I had others that probably we did not think about, and that's why I wanted to share this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Grace Musoro is here. If you contact her, she's sitting over there, she will facilitate all that. Let me thank all of you for your patience. If I was giving you, marking your cut or assignment or exam, I would have given all of you some bonus marks for patience. Thank you very much. So your work today is to try and synthesize all that you have heard today. look for trends and patterns, but most important, opportunities. There are some of you who never talked throughout the day. You sat here. I believe you are looking for opportunities. As a professor, I must say I've also been enlightened. And when I go back to my class later in the day or tomorrow, I have something to share with my students. So from now, we go downstairs, we take a photo, and then the director has informed me that there's a dinner for you. So don't go away. My final statement, in 1963 or 1960, somebody was taking alcohol. Does anybody take alcohol here? Specifically beer? No. I like the liar. And he noticed that when he opened the bottle, there were some bubbles coming out. Those who take beer, you know that. If there are some bubbles, you know the beer is what? Is okay. He's saying it's okay, and he's saying he doesn't take alcohol. Then this guy started asking, why do these bubbles go up? And he was taking beer. And from there, he came up with the bubble chamber. Those of you who did chemistry or physics, you know the bubble chamber. He used it for detecting subatomic particles, and he won a Nobel Prize. All I'm saying is, not all ideas will be discussed in a formal forum. So when you go to the informal forum, be like Edward Grazer and engage people and get ideas that may not win you a Nobel Prize, but may enrich your what? Your pocket. Thank you very much. Let's go downstairs for our photo and further engagement during the dinner.
Well done. No, me.